For centuries, humanity has shaped stone, metal, and earth. But some ancient creations defy everything we understand about tools, time, and human capability. Across deserts, mountains, and forgotten cities lie structures so precise, so immense, that even modern technology struggles to explain them. Who built them, and how? Tonight, we journey through 3 hours of unexplained archaeological mysteries that seem impossible to replicate, questioning not just the past, but the limits of human knowledge itself. Let's begin. At the southern edge of Mexico City, where modern highways cut through layers of ancient soil, rises an unexpected shape, low, wide, and perfectly circular. Partially buried beneath volcanic rock and urban sprawl, the Cuicuilco circular pyramid does not announce itself with towering steps or sharp angles. Instead, it emerges quietly, like a memory surfacing through time. Its rounded form feels deliberate, almost contemplative, standing apart from the more familiar pyramids that dominate Mesoamerican imagination. Cuicuilco is considered one of the oldest known ceremonial centers in the Valley of Mexico. Archaeological evidence suggests it flourished as early as 800 BCE, long before the rise of Teotihuacan or the Aztec Empire. At its height, it may have supported a population of tens of thousands. The pyramid itself, constructed of compacted earth and stone, appears to have been built in stages, gradually expanded over generations. Its circular design is rare in Mesoamerica, where square or rectangular platforms were the norm. This alone raises questions. Why choose a circle, a shape often associated with cycles, movement, and celestial patterns? Mainstream archaeology links Cuicuilco to early agricultural societies who relied heavily on astronomy. The circular pyramid is often interpreted as a ceremonial structure dedicated to fire, the sun, or volcanic forces, an understandable reverence in a region shaped by seismic instability. This theory gained weight after the discovery that Cuicuilco was largely abandoned following the eruption of the Zitl volcano around the 1st century BCE. Lava flows buried much of the settlement, freezing it in time. To many researchers, the story seems straightforward: an early city, a natural disaster, and a cultural shift northward. Yet the site resists simple explanations. The precision of the pyramid's geometry, achieved without metal tools or wheeled transport, continues to invite scrutiny. Its alignment does not clearly match the cardinal directions in the way later pyramids do, suggesting a different system of spatial understanding. Some researchers have proposed that the structure aligns with specific solar events, though evidence remains inconclusive. Others point to the possibility that the circular design served acoustic or ritual purposes that are no longer fully understood. More speculative ideas linger at the edges of academic discussion. Some fringe theorists suggest that Cuicuilco represents a lost architectural tradition, one that predates known Mesoamerican cultures and was later forgotten or deliberately erased. They note similarities between circular ceremonial structures found in distant regions, hinting at cultural connections that mainstream history does not recognize. While such claims lack definitive proof, they persist, fueled by gaps in the archaeological record and the site's unusual characteristics. There is also the matter of timing. If Cuicuilco was indeed abandoned before Teotihuacan rose to prominence, why do certain architectural and symbolic elements appear to echo later civilizations? Was knowledge transferred through surviving populations, or does the resemblance point to something deeper, a shared origin we have yet to uncover? Excavations have been limited by modern development, leaving large portions of the ancient city unexplored beneath concrete and asphalt. What lies buried may never be seen. Today, visitors walk along paths that circle the pyramid. Often unaware, they are tracing the outline of a civilization that once rivaled the greatest cities of its time. The silence of the structure feels intentional, as if it is waiting. Cuicuilco does not offer clear answers. Instead, it poses a quieter challenge. one that asks us to consider how much of human history remains hidden, and whether the most important chapters are still sealed beneath the ground, patiently out of reach. As the story of Cuicuilco fades into silence, its circular form buried beneath lava and time, the trail of unanswered questions does not end. It simply moves south, crossing mountains and cloud forests into the humid highlands of Guatemala. Here, where mist drifts through ancient cacao groves and the earth feels heavy with memory, lies Takalik Abaj. At first glance, it appears unassuming. Scattered stones, low platforms, and weathered monuments half swallowed by vegetation. But a closer look reveals a site quietly charged with intention. Takalik Abaj sits at a cultural crossroads. Active for nearly 2,000 years, from around 800 BCE to 900 CE, it bridges the transition between the Olmec and Maya worlds. Few sites in Mesoamerica can claim such continuity. Carved stones bearing unmistakably Olmec-style faces stand only meters from early Maya stelae inscribed with dates and symbols. This overlap alone has made Takalik Abaj invaluable to historians. Yet it is not the carvings that raise the most persistent questions. It is the stones that do not speak at all. Spread across the site are carefully placed stone alignments, rows, clusters, and solitary monuments positioned with striking consistency. Many are oriented along precise north-south or east-west axes. Others appear to track solar movements, aligning with equinoxes and solstices. Mainstream archaeology views these arrangements as early astronomical markers, tools for ritual calendars tied to agriculture, seasons, and divine cycles. In this interpretation, Takalik Abaj was not just a ceremonial center, but a place where time itself was observed and regulated. Excavations have confirmed that several structures were deliberately repositioned over centuries, adjusted to maintain alignment with celestial events. This suggests long-term planning, knowledge preserved and refined across generations. Without metal instruments or written star charts, the builders achieved a level of spatial accuracy that still commands respect. How was such precision maintained for so long? And how much knowledge was required to do so? Beyond the accepted explanations, the alignments invite quieter speculation. Some researchers have noted that certain stone rows do not correspond neatly to solar events, leading to theories involving lunar cycles or planetary observations. Others point to the surrounding landscape. Takalik Abaj is framed by volcanoes, rivers, and mountain ridges. Could the stones have been positioned not only in relation to the sky, but to the land itself, forming a symbolic map that connected earth, water, and horizon? More fringe ideas linger at the margins of discussion. A few suggest the site functioned as a geomantic center, its stones placed to channel natural energies believed to move through the terrain. This perspective draws parallels to other ancient sites around the world where alignments seem to transcend practical astronomy. While such interpretations remain speculative and difficult to test, they persist partly because the stones themselves offer no definitive explanation. There are no inscriptions to guide us, no surviving oral traditions to confirm intent. What complicates the mystery further is the site's role in cultural transition. Takalik Abaj was not abandoned abruptly. It evolved. Olmec-style monuments were respectfully recarved or repositioned by Maya successors, suggesting continuity rather than conquest. Did the meaning of the alignments change over time? Or were they preserved because their purpose, whatever it was, remained relevant across shifting belief systems? Walking through the site today, one senses an unusual stillness. The stones feel less like ruins and more like markers paused mid-conversation. Unlike towering pyramids, they do not dominate the landscape. They observe it. Their low profiles encourage looking outward, to the sky, the mountains, the slow movement of shadows across the ground. It is easy to imagine priests or observers standing here centuries ago, waiting for a precise moment when light or darkness would confirm that the world was still in balance. Takalik Abaj does not announce its secrets. It asks for patience. Despite decades of study, many of its alignments remain only partially understood, and others not understood at all. With large portions of the site still unexcavated, the possibility remains that key elements are missing: buried stones, erased markers, or patterns not yet recognized. As night falls over the Guatemalan highlands and the stars reappear above the same horizon watched by ancient observers, one question lingers quietly. Were these stones meant only to measure time, or to communicate something we have not yet learned how to read? As the aligned stones of Takalik Abaj recede into darkness, still watching the sky, still measuring a rhythm we only partially understand, the journey continues eastward, across oceans and continents, into a far harsher landscape. The lush highlands give way to open desert. The air grows dry. The horizon flattens. In central Jordan, rising quietly from a windswept plain, stands Ar-Rasas, an ancient settlement whose greatest mysteries are not what rises above the ground, but what disappears beneath it. At first sight, Ar-Rasas appears austere. Low stone walls, collapsed towers, and remnants of churches mark a place once firmly embedded in the late Roman and Byzantine worlds. The site is mentioned in historical records, even referenced in religious texts. Archaeologists agree that it was occupied for centuries, functioning at various times as a military post, a monastic center, and a rural town. On the surface, it seems well understood. But below the ruins lies a second Ar-Rasas, one that tells a more unsettling story. Beneath the visible structures is a complex network of underground chambers, corridors, shafts, and enclosed spaces carved directly into bedrock. Some are narrow and vertical, others wide enough to move through deliberately. Many connect in ways that are not immediately logical. There are few clear markers of habitation below ground, no hearths, no obvious living quarters. Yet the effort required to excavate these spaces would have been enormous. Why carve so extensively beneath a settlement already established above? Mainstream archaeology offers several explanations. Some of the underground features are believed to be cisterns and water management systems, essential in an arid environment where survival depended on storing seasonal rainfall. Others may have served as storage spaces or places of refuge during periods of conflict. In later centuries, when Ar-Rasas became a monastic site, certain underground chambers may have been used for ascetic practices, cells for isolation, meditation, or burial. Each of these explanations fits part of the evidence, but not all of it. The layout raises questions. Certain passages appear deliberately hidden, accessible only through narrow openings or vertical drops. Some spaces seem purposefully sealed or abandoned mid-construction. Others show signs of repeated modification, as if their function changed over time. Unlike typical subterranean architecture designed purely for utility, these structures feel planned with an awareness of movement, concealment, and control of access. Was this simply practical adaptation, or something more intentional? Adding to the intrigue is what is missing. There are few inscriptions below ground, no clear symbols explaining purpose. Unlike the richly decorated mosaics found above, some of the most detailed in the region, the underground spaces are stark, almost austere. This contrast has led some researchers to suggest that the subterranean world of Ar-Rasas was meant to be unseen, reserved for functions that did not require explanation or display. Speculative interpretations begin where the evidence grows thin. A small number of researchers have proposed that portions of the underground network predate the visible settlement, hinting at an earlier phase of occupation not yet fully documented. Others wonder whether the structures served ritual purposes tied to concepts of descent, purification, or symbolic separation from the surface world. In many ancient cultures, going underground carried spiritual meaning, a return to origins, a crossing into liminal space. Could Ar-Rasas have shared such beliefs? There are also theories focused on security. Jordan's deserts have long been crossroads of trade and conflict. Some suggest the underground passages functioned as escape routes, hidden shelters, or even secure storage for valuables or sacred objects. Yet no caches have been found to confirm this, and the complexity of certain sections seems excessive for emergency use alone. Why invest so much labor into spaces that appear intentionally difficult to access? Standing above ground today, it is easy to miss what lies below. The desert is quiet. Wind moves through broken stone. But beneath the surface, the temperature drops, sound dulls, and direction becomes uncertain. It is here that the mystery of Ar-Rasas deepens, not through spectacle, but through absence. These underground structures do not tell us what they were for. They tell us that something mattered enough to hide. Despite ongoing study, large portions of the subterranean network remain unexplored or only partially mapped. Structural instability, limited access, and the sheer scale of the site have slowed investigation. Each new chamber raises fresh questions rather than resolving old ones. The underground Ar-Rasas resists narrative simplicity, existing instead as a quiet challenge to our assumptions about ancient life in the desert. As night settles over the Jordanian plain and the stars emerge above ruins shaped by empire and faith, one thought lingers. If history is written on the surface, what stories are meant to be buried? And beneath Ar-Rasas, how much of that hidden story still waits, untouched in the dark? As the underground passages of Ar-Rasas disappear once more into silence, sealed by stone, shadow, and unanswered intent, the journey continues farther east toward a different kind of mystery. The desert gives way to jungle. Dry wind becomes cool mist. High on the slopes of Mount Lau in central Java, Indonesia, a stone complex emerges from dense forest and drifting cloud. Here stands Candi Sukuh, a temple unlike any other in Southeast Asia, quietly challenging expectations of what sacred architecture was meant to be. The approach to Candi Sukuh feels deliberate. Narrow paths wind upward through thick vegetation, the air growing cooler as elevation increases. When the temple finally comes into view, it defies familiarity. Instead of the ornate towers and symmetrical elegance typical of Javanese Hindu temples, Candi Sukuh presents a stepped, truncated pyramid, broad at the base, narrowing toward the top. Its form is strikingly simple, almost austere, evoking comparisons not to neighboring temples, but to far older structures half a world away. Dating to the 15th century, Candi Sukuh was built during the final years of the Majapahit Empire, a time of political fragmentation and cultural transition. Archaeologists generally agree that the temple reflects a shift away from classical Hindu-Buddhist traditions toward more localized, possibly esoteric beliefs. Inscriptions carved at the site confirm its late construction, yet its architectural style feels deliberately archaic, as though reaching backward rather than forward. Why would a declining empire choose to build a temple that appeared ancient even in its own time? The carvings deepen the mystery. Stone reliefs throughout Candi Sukuh depict scenes rarely found in formal religious complexes, explicit sexual imagery, exaggerated fertility symbols, and figures engaged in what appear to be ritual acts of creation and transformation. These images have often been described as confrontational or unsettling, but they are carved with care and precision, suggesting deep symbolic importance. Mainstream scholars interpret them as expressions of fertility rites, purification rituals, or tantric practices emphasizing the cyclical nature of life, death, and rebirth. At the heart of the complex stands a massive stone linga, once paired with a yoni, symbolizing creative energy and cosmic balance. This central focus reinforces the idea that Candi Sukuh was concerned less with worship in the conventional sense and more with transformation. Some historians propose that the site functioned as a place of spiritual initiation, where individuals underwent symbolic death and renewal before re-entering society. The mountain setting, often associated with sacred ascent, supports this interpretation. Yet not all elements fit neatly into known religious frameworks. The pyramid's orientation is unusual, and its terraces do not align clearly with major celestial events in the way other temples do. Some carvings appear intentionally ambiguous, blending human, animal, and mythic forms in ways that resist straightforward interpretation. There is also evidence that parts of the temple were left unfinished, raising questions about whether construction was interrupted, or whether incompleteness itself was meaningful. Speculation begins where certainty ends. A number of researchers have suggested that Candi Sukuh represents the survival of pre-Hindu beliefs, preserved beneath a thin layer of imported religious symbolism. According to this view, the temple may reflect indigenous cosmology focused on ancestor worship, earth energy, or rites tied specifically to Mount Lawu. Others note the pyramid's resemblance to structures in Mesoamerica, a similarity often dismissed as coincidence, yet difficult to ignore visually. Is this convergence purely functional, or does it hint at shared human impulses that emerge independently across cultures? More fringe theories propose that Candi Sukuh was designed to encode knowledge not meant for public display. The explicit imagery, rather than being provocative, may have served as a gate, discouraging outsiders while signaling deeper meaning to initiates. In this reading, the temple becomes less a monument and more a filter, revealing its purpose only to those prepared to understand it. While such ideas remain speculative, they persist because the site refuses to offer a single authoritative explanation. What is perhaps most striking is the silence surrounding Candi Sukuh in historical records. Unlike major temples celebrated in inscriptions and royal chronicles, Sukuh appears almost as an afterthought. There is no clear account of who commissioned it, who officiated rituals there, or why its style broke so sharply from tradition. It emerges suddenly, stands apart, and then fades from prominence as the Majapahit world collapses and new belief systems take hold. Today, the temple sits quietly on the mountainside. Fog rolls in without warning, obscuring carvings and softening edges. From certain angles, the pyramid seems to dissolve into the landscape, as if never meant to dominate it. Visitors often report a sense of unease, not fear, but dislocation, as though the site operates by rules no longer familiar. Candi Sukuh does not explain itself. It observes. Archaeological study continues, but many questions remain unresolved. Why this form, at this time? Why these symbols, carved so openly yet understood so little? And why here, on a mountain long associated with thresholds between worlds? With limited excavation and few surviving texts, much of Candi Sukuh's meaning remains inferred rather than known. As clouds gather again around Mount Lawu and the temple recedes into shadow, one question lingers in the quiet. Was Candi Sukuh the final expression of a fading civilization, or a deliberate attempt to preserve something far older, hidden in plain sight, waiting for a future that has not yet arrived? As the mist rolls away from Candi Sukuh's stepped pyramid and the shadows of Mount Lawu recede, our journey turns westward, across oceans and continents, to a very different landscape. The dense jungles of Indonesia give way to the arid expanses of the American Southwest, where desert light bleaches the earth into tones of ochre and beige. Here, on the broad desert plain near present-day Coolidge, Arizona, rises a structure that seems almost impossibly large for the hands that built it, the Casa Grande ruins. At first glance, it is a simple rectangle of stone and adobe, its four walls rising stubbornly against the elements. But this simplicity is deceiving. The great house of the Hohokam, as it is often called, is remarkable not for its adornments, but for its scale, precision, and endurance. Constructed between the 13th and 15th centuries by the Hohokam people, it rises to over 4 stories, with walls thick enough to support the weight of successive levels. Its windows and doorways are small and irregular, yet intentionally placed, suggesting careful planning. Even today, after centuries of exposure to sun, wind, and rain, the structure maintains its dignity, an enduring testament to an ancient people whose knowledge and ambition exceeded what we might expect. Archaeologists agree that Casa Grande functioned as a communal or ceremonial center, possibly serving as a hub for storage, administration, or ritual. Its construction demonstrates an advanced understanding of local materials, engineering, and climate. Adobe and caliche, a mix of clay and gravel, were combined to resist erosion, while the thick walls provided insulation from the harsh desert heat. Yet even with these explanations, the building continues to provoke questions. How did a society without metal tools, draft animals, or the wheel achieve such precision and stability in a multi-story adobe structure? And why, among dozens of surrounding settlements, did they invest so much effort in this single monumental house? Mainstream theories focus on the practical. Casa Grande may have served as a granary or central storage facility, its elevated floors protecting crops from pests and floods. Others suggest it functioned as an astronomical observatory. Some of the openings and window placements appear aligned with solar or seasonal events, echoing patterns found in other ancient cultures around the world. Such alignments may have guided agricultural cycles or ceremonial observances, embedding the rhythms of nature into the very fabric of the building. Yet, the more one studies Casa Grande, the more anomalies emerge. Certain features of the structure, including interior walls and niche placements, appear intentionally non-functional, spaces that could not have served clear domestic or storage purposes. Were they symbolic? Were they markers of status or portals for ritual practice? The Hohokam left no written records to explain their intent, and no inscriptions survive to clarify meaning. Unlike later civilizations, where monumental architecture is accompanied by hieroglyphs, codices, or oral history, Casa Grande speaks only through form and placement. Its silence invites speculation. Some researchers have suggested that Casa Grande was part of a larger network of ceremonial sites, connected by trade, observation, or spiritual significance. Others note its remarkable durability and construction techniques, which seem difficult to replicate even today without modern machinery. Could this indicate a level of social organization, engineering knowledge, or ritual importance that is underestimated by conventional accounts? And if so, how was this knowledge maintained and transmitted across generations in a society without written language? More speculative theories linger at the edges of academic discussion. Certain observers have pointed out alignments and proportions within Casa Grande that evoke mathematical or geometric precision reminiscent of far older civilizations. While these claims remain unproven, they feed a persistent fascination. Might the Hohokam have preserved techniques or knowledge that were lost with the community's decline? Could these methods reveal insights into a human capacity for construction and organization that we still struggle to replicate? The building's desert setting amplifies the mystery. From a distance, Casa Grande rises like a mirage, its shadow stretching across the arid landscape. The surrounding terrain is flat and open, providing no obvious natural defense or resource advantage. Why build here, in such an exposed location, rather than in a more sheltered valley? The answer may lie not in practicality, but in symbolism, orientation, visibility, or sacred geography. yet the precise reasoning remains elusive. Today, visitors walk among the ruins, tracing the outline of walls worn smooth by centuries of wind and rain. The structure's scale is awe-inspiring, yet its function remains partially obscured. Unlike a fully excavated urban site, Casa Grande is both monument and enigma, a skeleton of knowledge, stripped of the explanations that might once have accompanied it. Archaeologists continue to study soil samples, wall composition, and alignment, but each new discovery tends to raise as many questions as it answers. As the sun dips below the horizon and casts long shadows across the Arizona desert, one cannot help but feel the weight of human intention embedded in the stones. Casa Grande challenges our assumptions about what ancient societies could accomplish, what they valued, and how knowledge can persist or vanish without a trace. The Hohokam left no written instructions, no guidebook, no final declaration. And yet, through this monumental ruin, they speak across centuries. The question that remains, lingering in the quiet desert air, is simple and profound. What was the full purpose of Casa Grande, and what knowledge, once known, remains lost to time? As the desert sun sets over the remnants of Casa Grande, and the Hohokam's monumental silence fades into the evening wind, our journey turns once again, this time to the misted mountains of Eastern Europe. Far from the sun-baked plains of Arizona, deep within the dense forests of Romania's Orăștia Mountains, lie the ruins of Sarmizegetusa Regia, the ancient capital of the Dacian kingdom. Here, atop a plateau surrounded by steep cliffs and winding valleys, the landscape itself seems to guard the secrets of a civilization long vanished. From a distance, the site is deceptive. Stone terraces stretch across the mountainside in precise steps, interwoven with circular and rectangular enclosures that hint at a level of planning almost unimaginable without modern surveying tools. Massive stones, hewn and transported with painstaking effort, form walls, stairways, and platforms that rise from the forest floor as if asserting their claim over the land. The layout is geometric, symmetrical, yet imbued with a sense of ritual, a pattern that suggests the builders sought alignment not just with the earth, but with something beyond it. Sarmizegetusa Regia flourished between the 1st century BCE and the early 2nd century CE, before the Roman conquest led by Emperor Trajan. Archaeological evidence points to a sophisticated society. Fortified walls, complex water distribution systems, religious sanctuaries, and living quarters carefully integrated into the natural topography. The Dacians clearly mastered local resources, combining stone, timber, and soil into constructions that could endure the harsh mountain climate. Yet even this impressive engineering does not fully explain what has puzzled scholars for decades: the enigmatic arrangement of the site's sanctuaries and terraces, and the apparent astronomical precision encoded in its design. The most mysterious elements are the circular sanctuaries, made of massive stone blocks arranged with geometric exactness. Some researchers argue these structures may have functioned as solar calendars, observing equinoxes, solstices, or lunar cycles. Others point to alignments with nearby peaks and valleys, suggesting a symbolic relationship with the surrounding landscape. Was this purely practical, a way to mark time, or was it also ceremonial, a means of linking the human and divine through architecture? The Dacians left no written records that survive, so the true intention remains elusive. In addition to the sanctuaries, Sarmizegetusa Regia contains terraces and platforms that some interpret as defensive, while others suggest ritual or civic purposes. The precision of stone cutting, the uniformity of terraces, and the scale of labor required to move and place massive rocks raise questions about the organization and knowledge required. How did the Dacians, without iron tools on a large scale or wheeled transport in mountainous terrain, accomplish such feats? Were there techniques that were lost after the Roman conquest? Innovations so effective that they have never been fully replicated? Mainstream archaeology emphasizes practical and spiritual explanations, fortification, ceremonial use, and social organization. The site was clearly a political and religious hub, capable of sustaining a large population and defending against invaders. Yet, there are anomalies. Certain enclosures seem functionally redundant. Some terraces appear aligned not with obvious solar events, but with less apparent celestial or geographic markers. Could these anomalies represent encoded knowledge, esoteric practices, or a worldview that modern researchers cannot fully decipher? Speculation deepens when considering the site's symbolic and ritual aspects. Some theorists suggest that the circular sanctuaries represent cosmological models, depicting the Dacians' understanding of the universe. Others note potential parallels with other ancient sacred sites across Europe and beyond, where geometry, astronomy, and ritual intersect. While there is no evidence of direct contact, the similarity in design raises questions about whether certain principles of sacred architecture emerge independently in human civilizations, or if lost networks of knowledge once existed. Another layer of mystery lies beneath the visible structures. Archaeologists have uncovered subterranean passages, cisterns, and foundations, hinting at construction phases and uses that are still poorly understood. Were these underground areas purely functional, providing water and storage, or did they serve as hidden sanctuaries or spaces for initiatory rites? The careful placement of stones, the repetition of geometric patterns, and the interplay of visibility and concealment all suggest a complex understanding of space and symbolism. Walking through Sarmizegetusa Regia today, the sense of scale and intention is overwhelming. From terraces and sanctuaries, one can see the mountains stretching to the horizon, the forest folding beneath the cliffs. The site feels alive, even in its ruin, as though the echoes of ritual, governance, and human labor linger in the air. Each stone seems deliberate, each alignment carefully considered, yet the full purpose remains tantalizingly out of reach. Despite decades of study, Sarmizegetusa Regia resists definitive explanation. How much of its original function remains hidden beneath collapsed terraces and forest detritus? Were the Dacians' astronomical and architectural insights practical, spiritual, or a fusion of both? And most compellingly, what knowledge, lost in conquest, time, and decay, was encoded in this mountain sanctuary, impossible to fully replicate today? As twilight descends over the Orashtia Mountains and shadows stretch across the ancient terraces, one is left with a profound sense of wonder. Sarmizegetusa Regia does not speak in words. It does not hand over its secrets easily. It challenges observers to read geometry, landscape, and stone as language, to consider a civilization's capabilities not only in survival, but in vision. And in that challenge lies the enduring mystery. What remains unseen, beneath, beyond, and within the ruins of this Dacian capital, waiting for the patient eye to discover? As the twilight settles over the terraces of Sarmizegetusa Regia, and the mountain winds whisper through stones carved by hands long gone, our journey now moves across continents once more, into the heart of Mesoamerica, to a site of astonishing scale and profound symbolism, the ancient city of Teotihuacan. Here, amidst the broad avenue of the dead and the imposing pyramids that dominate the valley, rises the Temple of the Feathered Serpent, a structure both imposing and enigmatic, commanding attention with a presence that is impossible to ignore. At first glance, the temple is monumental. Its stepped architecture rises in perfect symmetry, its broad terraces adorned with undulating serpents that seem to slither across the stone surfaces. The heads of these feathered serpents, carved with meticulous care, gaze outward, their open mouths frozen in silent proclamations. The temple is layered, complex, and vast. a construction that speaks to both ambition and sophistication. Yet it is not only the sheer scale that inspires awe, but the precision and intricacy of its decoration, details that appear almost impossible to replicate, even with modern tools. Constructed around 200 CE, the Temple of the Feathered Serpent is located within the citadel, a massive square enclosure surrounded by walls, plazas, and smaller temples. Archaeological evidence indicates it was a focal point of religious and political activity, likely serving as a ceremonial center and a place where rulers demonstrated their power. Its lower layers are decorated with alternating serpent heads and intricate symbols, thought to represent both the deity Quetzalcoatl and forces of the underworld. Yet even with extensive excavation, the full significance of the temple remains elusive. Mainstream archaeology offers several insights. The temple appears carefully aligned to celestial and terrestrial markers. Some scholars suggest that its orientation, relative to the Avenue of the Dead and surrounding structures, allowed the city's inhabitants to track solar cycles, equinoxes, and perhaps planetary movements. Burials found beneath the temple, including human sacrifices, indicate that it was a site of both reverence and ritual, where life, death, and cosmology intersected. The temple's grandeur reinforces the idea that Teotihuacan was a highly organized civilization, capable of mobilizing enormous labor and resources. Yet even these explanations only partially account for the mystery. The temple's decoration contains complex patterns and repetitive motifs that suggest a deep symbolic or mathematical understanding. The feathered serpents themselves are more than art. They may encode cosmological knowledge, cycles of time, or principles of order that remain indecipherable. How did the builders achieve such precision without iron tools or standardized measurement systems? And why did they invest such extraordinary effort in a structure that, while monumental, does not appear to have been designed for mass habitation or defense? Speculation grows when considering what lies beneath the temple. Archaeologists have uncovered tunnels, hidden chambers, and caches of artifacts, murals, jade figurines, and offerings arranged with exacting care. Some chambers contain remains that suggest ritual sacrifice, yet the patterns of placement are enigmatic. Certain arrangements align with no apparent cardinal direction or visible landmark, suggesting that the temple's purpose extended beyond the tangible, perhaps into a symbolic or astronomical realm we are only beginning to glimpse. More fringe interpretations point to the temple's uncanny mathematical and geometric properties. Some researchers have noted recurring ratios and alignments that echo concepts found in distant cultures, suggesting either a shared human intuition for design or a level of sophistication rarely credited to ancient civilizations. Others suggest that the feathered serpent may have functioned as a knowledge repository, encoded in stone, ritual, and alignment, preserved for initiates or ruling elites, its meaning intentionally obscured to outsiders. While such theories cannot be confirmed, they persist because the temple does not yield simple answers. The temple's role in Teotihuacan's social and political life adds another layer of intrigue. The city's inhabitants remain largely anonymous. Their language, origins, and governance structures are not fully understood. Yet, the Temple of the Feathered Serpent reveals a civilization capable of organizing labor on an unprecedented scale, of embedding symbolism into architecture, and of constructing spaces that engage both the eye and the imagination. Its walls are a testament to knowledge, belief, and vision, but knowledge that now exists only in fragments, shadows of understanding lost to time. Today, as the sun casts long shadows across the citadel and the surrounding city, the temple stands quietly, yet imposingly. Visitors walking along the Avenue of the Dead feel the enormity of human ambition and the weight of ritual practice. The feathered serpents, their heads frozen in stone, appear almost alive, gazing outward as they have for nearly 2 millennia. The temple does not announce its secrets. It invites careful observation, contemplation, and wonder. Despite decades of study, many questions remain unanswered. How did the builders achieve such technical mastery? What was the full significance of the subterranean chambers and their carefully arranged offerings? Were the alignments purely astronomical, symbolic, or both? And perhaps most compellingly, what knowledge, lost with the decline of Teotihuacan, is still encoded in the stone, waiting for those patient enough to see it? As twilight descends over the Valley of Mexico, the Temple of the Feathered Serpent continues to rise from the ancient streets, its carvings sharp in the fading light. It is both a monument to human ingenuity and a reminder of what remains beyond our understanding, a civilization that could create structures impossible to replicate today, and whose mysteries linger quietly, inviting us to ask, to wonder, and to keep searching. As the feathered serpents of Teotihuacan fade into shadow, their stone mouths frozen in silent observation, our journey carries us now across oceans, from the high valleys of central Mexico to the tropical expanses of the South Pacific. Beyond the mountains and volcanoes, past the coral reefs and turquoise waters, lies the island kingdom of Tonga, where on the gently rolling plains of Tonga Tapu rises a structure both simple and extraordinary: the Haamonga, a Maui trilithon. At first glance, it is deceptively minimal, a doorway of 3 massive coral limestone slabs, standing upright and balanced with remarkable precision. Yet its presence commands the landscape, a portal of mystery stretching back centuries. The Haamonga, a Maui, often called the stone tripod, is believed to have been erected around the 13th century, during the reign of King Tuitatui. Its construction is monumental by any measure. The 2 upright pillars rise more than 5 meters, supporting a horizontal lintel estimated to weigh over 7 tons. The stones are quarried from coral limestone, transported across land, and positioned with a precision that challenges the imagination. Even with today's machinery, moving and balancing stones of this size and weight would be a formidable task. How, then, did the Tongans of centuries past manage it? And why? Mainstream scholarship suggests the trilithon may have served a ceremonial or political purpose, marking the king's authority or demarcating sacred space. Its alignment, running roughly north-south, has prompted speculation that it may have been used as an astronomical marker, perhaps tracking the sun during solstices or other celestial events. Some researchers propose that the structure functioned as a gateway or entrance to an important royal compound, while others argue it may have symbolized the union of sky, earth, and people, a physical manifestation of cosmic order. Yet the more closely one studies the Haamonga, a Maui, the more questions emerge. The precision with which the massive lintel is positioned atop the vertical pillars is remarkable. No mortar holds the stones together. Balance alone sustains the structure across centuries of wind, rain, and seismic activity. Was this the product of meticulous trial and error, inherited techniques, or knowledge now lost? And if it held astronomical significance, what instruments or observational methods allowed the builders to achieve such alignment without modern tools? The surrounding landscape deepens the mystery. The trilithon sits amid plains that rise subtly toward the mountains, forming a natural horizon line that may have been important in observing celestial bodies. Nearby, smaller stone arrangements and burial mounds hint at ceremonial practices, yet their precise relationships to the Haamonga remain unclear. Did these monuments function as part of a larger ritual landscape, a network of observation, power, and spirituality integrated into the natural environment? Or were they simply markers of social hierarchy, emphasizing the reach of royal authority? Speculative interpretations abound. Some researchers suggest that the trilithon may encode knowledge of solar or lunar cycles, acting as a calendar for agricultural or ceremonial purposes. Others propose that the Haamonga represents a symbolic portal between worlds, a tangible connection between humans and gods, heaven and earth. Its simplicity and elegance invite interpretation as much as scrutiny. The structure's geometric purity, with its perfect balance and proportionality, almost seems to challenge human capability, raising questions about what ancient builders could accomplish when motivated by vision, ritual, or necessity. Fringe theories, while not universally accepted, reflect the lingering fascination with the trilithon. A few have suggested that the stones were aligned with distant islands or important topographical markers, implying a broader understanding of geography than might be expected. Others have speculated that the Haamonga of Maui may have had an acoustic or resonant function, with vibrations transmitted through the stone during certain ceremonies. While these ideas remain speculative, they underscore the profound sense of mystery the site evokes, a monument that resists full understanding, even as it stands firmly in the world. Equally enigmatic is the oral tradition surrounding the trilithon. Local legends describe the stones as a gateway built by Maui, a demigod in Polynesian mythology, bridging myth and reality in a way that complicates historical reconstruction. Were these stories purely symbolic, or do they preserve echoes of ritual and purpose now obscured by time? The intertwining of myth, architecture, and landscape suggests that the Haamonga of Maui was not merely a functional object, but a locus of meaning, intended to be read on multiple levels: physical, social, and spiritual. Today, visitors approach the trilithon with reverence. The stones rise from the grassy plain, their weathered surfaces glowing softly in the sunlight, casting long shadows across the earth. Standing beneath the lintel, one can almost sense the careful planning, the labor, and the intent that went into raising these massive stones. They speak not with words, but with presence, an enduring reminder of human ingenuity, determination, and perhaps something deeper, a vision of order and connection that transcends time. Despite centuries of observation and study, the Haamonga of Maui remains only partially understood. How exactly were the stones quarried, transported, and balanced with such precision? What specific role did the structure play in Tongan society, in ritual, or in celestial observation? And, most intriguing, what knowledge, techniques, or cultural practices were preserved in its creation that are now lost, perhaps forever, to the modern world? As the sun sinks toward the horizon and the Pacific winds stir across the plains of Tongatapu, the Haamonga of Maui stands silently, its stones warm to the touch and heavy with history. It is a monument that bridges myth, human ingenuity, and the mysteries of the past, a structure impossible to fully replicate and yet impossible to ignore. And in that stillness, one question remains. What else lies hidden in the vision, knowledge, and intention of those who shaped this remarkable trilithon, waiting for a future generation to uncover, or perhaps only to wonder? As the Haamonga of Maui rises silently from the plains of Tonga, a testament to human ingenuity and the mystery of precise construction, our journey now turns northward, across oceans and continents once more, to the rolling hills and rugged terrain of the Balkans. High above the valley of Staro Nagoricane, in what is today North Macedonia, sits a site that marries the natural landscape with human observation in ways that are both ancient and astonishing: the Kokino Observatory. Here, atop a rocky plateau, stone markers and carefully shaped outcrops seem to reach toward the sky, hinting at knowledge and intent that has persisted for millennia. From a distance, Kokino appears as a rugged jumble of rocks, weathered and sun-bleached, scattered across a steep plateau. But closer examination reveals purposeful arrangement. Stones forming circular and rectangular platforms, aligned with the horizon, each seemingly positioned with careful deliberation. The surface undulates with terraces, naturally occurring outcrops modified by human hands, offering vantage points from which observers could watch the sun, moon, and stars. The plateau itself becomes a canvas on which the ancients mapped the cosmos. Archaeologists have dated Kokino to the Bronze Age, approximately 1900 to 1600 BCE, making it one of the oldest known observatories in the world. Evidence suggests it was used for astronomical observation, tracking celestial cycles that informed agricultural and ritual calendars. Stone markers align with the rising and setting points of the sun during solstices and equinoxes, and certain outcrops correspond with lunar cycles. These alignments hint at sophisticated understanding of time and celestial patterns, knowledge achieved without telescopes, mechanical instruments, or written records. Yet the simplicity of Kokino's construction belies its complexity. Unlike grand stone circles or pyramids, the observatory integrates directly with natural features. Rocks that might appear haphazard to the casual eye were carefully selected, moved, or reshaped to mark key points on the horizon. Certain formations appear to frame the sun at specific times of the year, casting shadows or reflecting light across the plateau in ways that could indicate seasonal transitions or ceremonial moments. How did Bronze Age observers calculate such alignments? And what techniques allowed them to move from observation to precise placement without leaving written instructions? Mainstream interpretations focus on practical and ritual functions, agricultural planning, timekeeping, and ceremonial observances. The ability to anticipate solstices and equinoxes would have been crucial in a pre-industrial society reliant on planting cycles. Ritual significance may have been layered atop this practical knowledge, with the observatory serving as a sacred place where cosmology and daily life intersected. Yet the more one examines Kokino, the more questions emerge. Some markers seem to correspond to astronomical events that are not easily explained by solar or lunar cycles alone, hinting at the possibility of more complex celestial observation. Speculation grows around the human intent and precision embedded in the site. Some researchers suggest that Kokino may have been a center for elite knowledge, where select individuals monitored the skies and interpreted cosmic patterns for their community. Others point to the possibility that the observatory served a symbolic or ritual function beyond practicality, encoding cosmological principles into the landscape itself. The interplay of natural terrain and human modification raises a profound question. Did the creators of Kokino perceive the land and sky as a single system, intertwined in a way that modern observers struggle to comprehend? Fringe theories, while not universally accepted, further underscore the site's enigmatic quality. Some have proposed that Kokino's alignments point toward distant landscapes, perhaps mountains or rivers significant in Bronze Age cosmology. Others speculate about acoustic properties, suggesting that certain rock formations could amplify sound or serve as focal points for ritual chants or signals. While these ideas remain speculative, they highlight the sense that Kokino is more than the sum of its parts, a fusion of observation, ritual, and landscape that resists simple explanation. Equally intriguing is the fact that Kokino predates many other known observatories, including those in Egypt and Mesopotamia, by centuries. This raises questions about the development of astronomical knowledge across regions and cultures. How did Bronze Age communities acquire, transmit, and preserve the observational skill necessary to construct such a site? And why did Kokino remain largely unknown until modern survey and excavation? Its presence suggests that sophisticated understanding of the heavens was more widespread than previously thought, yet much of that knowledge vanished with the passage of time. Today, Kokino stands quietly amid windswept rocks, the plateau open to the sky and the valley below. Visitors walking the terraces sense a connection between earth and cosmos, as though each stone is deliberately placed to guide perception and attention. The horizon becomes a living clock, marking the passage of days, seasons, and years, while the rocks themselves seem to whisper the ingenuity and devotion of their builders. There is a palpable sense of observation, of someone long ago watching the sun and moon, waiting for the exact moment when the sky revealed its secret patterns. Despite extensive study, many questions about Kokino remain unanswered. What knowledge was encoded in its markers, and how much remains hidden beneath millennia of weathering and erosion? Were there aspects of the sky observed here that we no longer recognize or understand? And most tantalizing, did the Bronze Age creators of Kokino achieve insights into the cosmos that modern science can only approximate, but not fully replicate? As twilight descends over the plateau, and shadows stretch across the rocky terraces, Kokino Observatory rises quietly against the fading light, a place where human curiosity, precision, and cosmic wonder converge. It is a site that challenges assumptions, bridging the practical and the mystical, the observed and the imagined. And in that stillness, one question remains. What truths, hidden in stone and sky, await those patient enough to trace the patterns left by those who watched the heavens thousands of years ago? As the sun dips behind the rocky plateaus of North Macedonia and the Kokino Observatory fades into twilight, our journey now turns northward once again, across seas and rugged coastlines, to the misted hills of the Scottish Highlands. Here, near Inverness, lies a landscape shaped by wind, rain, and millennia of human presence. Among these hills sits Balnuaran of Clava, a complex of standing stones, burial cairns, and circular earthworks that has persisted quietly for over 4,000 years. In this remote corner, the past feels immediate. The stones seem to breathe with the weight of ancient knowledge, inviting those who approach to consider mysteries that resist explanation. At first glance, the site is deceptively tranquil. Small, grassy mounds rise gently from the uneven terrain, surrounded by concentric circles of standing stones. The stones themselves are weathered, their surfaces mottled by lichen and centuries of exposure. Yet the arrangement is far from random. Circular cairns are paired with ringed stones, and the lines of sight between them suggest careful alignment with one another, and possibly with the heavens above. Each cairn and circle seems to carry a deliberate intention, a silent narrative etched in stone and earth. Archaeological studies date the Balnuaran of Clava to the late Neolithic and early Bronze Age, around 2500 to 2000 BCE. Excavations reveal that these structures served as burial sites, often for elite members of the community, and were carefully constructed using locally sourced stone. The cairns are passage graves, with narrow corridors leading into central chambers where human remains were placed. Around many of these cairns are standing stones, some leaning slightly as if in perpetual gesture toward the sky, others perfectly vertical, forming circles that suggest both symbolic and functional purpose. Mainstream interpretations suggest the site combined ritual, funerary, and perhaps astronomical purposes. The orientation of certain cairns and standing stones aligns with the midwinter sunset, implying that the builders observed the sun and possibly other celestial bodies to mark the passage of time. The concentric stone circles could have served as markers of sacred space, boundaries between the living and the dead, or as places where ritual activity took place. Yet even these explanations, grounded in careful research, leave much unanswered. How, without sophisticated surveying tools, did Neolithic people achieve such geometric precision over uneven terrain? And why choose circular, concentric forms rather than simple linear or rectangular arrangements common elsewhere? The more one studies Balnuaran of Clava, the more subtle mysteries emerge. Certain stones appear deliberately placed to create optical effects at specific times of year, such as the midwinter sunset or the rising sun of the solstice. Some scholars have suggested that the placement of the cairns and rings forms a complex calendar, encoding knowledge of lunar cycles and seasonal shifts. Others have noted anomalies, stones that seem out of proportion, cairns that are unusually heavy or constructed with stones quarried from distant locations. These elements suggest that the site was more than a cemetery. It was a carefully considered landscape, a physical manifestation of cosmology, ritual, and social hierarchy. Speculation continues where evidence grows thin. Some researchers have proposed that the site was used for initiatory rituals, with the concentric circles serving as stages or passages through which participants symbolically moved between worlds. Others note that the Clava cairns share design elements with similar structures in Brittany, France, raising questions about the spread of architectural knowledge across ancient Europe. Could ideas, techniques, or ritual concepts have traveled hundreds of miles, shaping distant communities in parallel? And if so, how did this knowledge persist in an era before written records?
Fringe theories, while not universally accepted, reflect the enduring fascination with the site. Some suggest that the standing stones encode information about celestial phenomena beyond the solar calendar, including lunar standstills or even tracking of specific stars. Others propose acoustic properties. The cairns and stone circles may have been designed to amplify sound, creating a ceremonial resonance during ritual activity. While such interpretations cannot be confirmed, they highlight the sense that Balnuaran of Clava was a place of layered meaning, a fusion of observation, ritual, and social symbolism. The remote location of the site adds to its enigmatic presence. Hidden among hills, far from major rivers or settlements, Balnuaran of Clava seems deliberately placed to command perspective and observation rather than convenience. Its stones rise from the landscape as if asserting an invisible order over the surrounding hills, inviting those who approach to consider the alignment of humans, earth, and sky. This interplay of location, structure, and environment speaks to a worldview in which natural and constructed space were inseparable, where knowledge was encoded in stone as much as passed through memory and ritual. Today, visitors walk the grassy mounds, tracing the outlines of cairns and circles, feeling the rhythm of placement and alignment that has persisted for millennia. The stones, worn smooth by weather and lichen, seem almost animate in the fading light, standing as witnesses to centuries of observation, ritual, and mystery. Despite generations of study, Balnuaran of Clava continues to resist definitive explanation. Its precise alignments, geometric sophistication, and subtle optical and acoustic properties suggest knowledge that is difficult to replicate, even with modern tools. As dusk descends over the highlands and shadows stretch across the cairns, Balnuaran of Clava stands quietly against the fading sky, a testament to human ingenuity, ritual, and vision. How were the stones transported, placed, and aligned with such care in a remote, uneven landscape? What full purpose did these cairns, rings, and standing stones serve, and what knowledge might have been encoded in their layout that has since been lost? And perhaps most compellingly, what the truths about human observation, ritual, and connection to the cosmos remain hidden here, waiting for those patient enough to search among the stones.
As the highland mist settles over Balnuaran of Clava and the standing stones fade into shadow, our journey now carries us south across continents and oceans to the tropical heart of Sri Lanka. Here, rising abruptly from a flat landscape of forests and rice paddies, stands Sigiriya, known as the Lion Rock, a massive monolithic plateau that has captivated explorers, historians, and locals for centuries. At nearly 200 meters tall, the rock dominates the horizon, its sheer vertical faces contrasting sharply with the gently rolling terrain below. But it is not only the scale that inspires awe, it is the human hand that transformed this natural formation into a fortress, palace, and city, unlike any other. From a distance, Sigiriya appears impossibly perched, a natural sentinel frozen in time. Yet, as one draws closer, the ingenuity of its builders becomes evident. Stairways carved directly into the rock, terraced gardens, moats, and sophisticated water channels indicate a civilization capable of blending architecture with the natural environment in ways that challenge modern engineering. The fortress atop the rock is encircled by a complex of walls and gates, while below, geometric gardens, pools, and fountains reveal an advanced understanding of hydraulics, landscape design, and urban planning. Every detail seems carefully calculated, yet the overarching vision remains enigmatic. The construction of Sigiriya is generally attributed to King Kasyapa I, who ruled in the 5th century CE. Historical chronicles suggest that he chose the site as both a royal palace and a defensive stronghold, motivated by political intrigue and fear of retaliation from his own family. Excavations confirm that the site was fortified extensively, and the upper terraces were adorned with frescoes and mirror walls that attest to a sophisticated artistic culture. Yet despite these clear historical markers, many aspects of Sigiriya continue to puzzle researchers. How was such a massive structure built atop a sheer rock face with the tools and technology available at the time? How did the builders transport enormous stones, carve precise stairways, and maintain balance and stability across irregular surfaces? The ingenuity of the water management system is particularly striking. A series of channels, pools, fountains, and cisterns utilize natural gravity to circulate water across terraces, some of which are now over 1,500 years old. During heavy monsoon rains, these systems still function, demonstrating knowledge of hydraulics that is astonishing for the period. Some researchers suggest the gardens and water features served not only aesthetic and practical purposes, but also ritual or symbolic ones, reflecting cosmology, social hierarchy, or spiritual ideals. Could the very movement of water have been designed to mimic celestial cycles, reinforcing the connection between human and cosmic order? Above the gardens, the upper palace terraces are equally perplexing. Carved lion paws mark the entrance to the fortress, symbolic remnants of what was once a colossal gateway in the form of a lion, hence the name Sigiriya, Lion Rock. Frescoes painted in sheltered alcoves depict figures whose colors remain vibrant even after centuries of exposure, suggesting advanced techniques in pigment preparation and preservation. The placement of these murals, often in locations difficult to access, raises questions about their intended audience. Were they purely decorative, or did they serve a ritualistic or ceremonial function, conveying symbolic meaning only visible to those permitted within the inner sanctum? Mainstream interpretations focus on Sigiriya as a royal citadel, a defensive fortress, and a display of power and prestige. Yet anomalies and mysteries persist. The precision of stonework, the alignment of walls and terraces, and the integration of natural and constructed features suggest planning on a scale difficult to replicate even today. Some terraces, walls, and pathways seem to have been deliberately aligned with solar events or specific vantage points, hinting at a possible astronomical or cosmological purpose. Were these choices practical, symbolic, or both? And if symbolic, what cultural or spiritual knowledge guided such meticulous planning? Speculative theories, while not universally accepted, offer intriguing possibilities. Some suggest that Sigiriya's location atop a monolithic rock was deliberately chosen for its visibility and dominance over the surrounding landscape, but also as a sacred axis connecting earth, sky, and human settlement. Others propose that the site functioned as a hidden repository of knowledge or a ceremonial complex intended for elite or initiatory practices. The combination of fortification, artistry, landscape engineering, and symbolic design points to a civilization capable of integrating multiple layers of meaning into a single cohesive plan, an achievement that remains difficult to replicate. Walking among the ruins today, one senses both scale and intention. The terraces descend sharply, the frescoes catch sunlight filtering through alcoves, and the gardens extend in precise geometries across flat and sloped terrain. The palace remains perched above, a reminder of ambition and vision. It is a site that blends practicality, artistry, and symbolism so seamlessly that it challenges modern assumptions about what was achievable with the tools and techniques of the 5th century. Despite extensive archaeological study, many questions remain. How were the sheer logistical challenges of construction overcome? What full significance did the gardens, water systems, and frescoes hold? And perhaps most compelling, what knowledge, lost over time, is encoded in the integration of rock, water, and architecture at Sigiriya, waiting for careful observation and interpretation? As the sun sets over the central plains of Sri Lanka and shadows stretch across the vertical cliffs, Sigiriya Rock Fortress rises silently against the horizon, a monument that blends human ingenuity, artistry, and mystery. It is both a palace and an enigma, a site impossible to replicate with the same precision, ambition, and vision. And in that stillness, one question remains. What secrets of planning, symbolism, and engineering lie hidden within these stones, waiting to be discovered, understood, or perhaps only marveled at by those who tread carefully across this ancient rock? As the sun sets over the towering cliffs of Sigiriya, and the terraces, fountains, and frescoes fade into shadow, our journey moves once more, this time across continents, from the tropical heart of Sri Lanka to the rolling forests and hills of central France. Here, atop Mont Bouvray in the Morvan region, lies Bibracte, a fortified oppidum of the ancient Gauls, whose stone ramparts and earthworks still trace patterns of a once thriving settlement. From a distance, the site seems modest, nestled among the green slopes and misted valleys, yet closer inspection reveals the scale and sophistication of a city that once ruled the surrounding landscape with both commerce and culture. Bibracte rises as a testament to human ingenuity, its massive ramparts and terraces marking the limits of an ancient community whose population may have numbered tens of thousands. The walls, built from local stone and timber, follow the contours of the mountain, creating a series of enclosures that blend seamlessly with the natural topography. From aerial perspectives, the oppidum reveals a geometric precision, streets, public spaces, and fortifications laid out with an understanding of organization and defensive strategy that would be impressive even by modern standards. The site flourished in the late Iron Age, roughly between the 2nd and 1st centuries BCE, and served as a political and economic center for the Aedui tribe, one of the most powerful Gallic confederations. Archaeologists have uncovered evidence of densely packed dwellings, workshops, and markets, alongside monumental gates and ceremonial spaces, suggesting a society capable of complex governance and trade. Yet despite these findings, many elements of Bibracte remain puzzling. How did its inhabitants construct such formidable fortifications atop a mountain without modern machinery? And what motivated the meticulous organization of streets and buildings? Was it purely practical, or guided by cultural, spiritual, or even astronomical principles? One of the most intriguing aspects of Bibracte is its combination of practicality and sophistication. The ramparts, carefully designed with ditches, embankments, and timber palisades, suggest strategic knowledge of defense. Yet, within these defensive measures lies evidence of social and cultural complexity. Plazas for gatherings, workshops for specialized crafts, and storage areas for surplus food and goods. Such planning indicates not only technical skill, but also a vision of urban life, a coordinated effort to sustain a large population in a mountainous environment. How did a society without standardized measurement or modern surveying tools achieve such integration between natural terrain and built space? Mainstream interpretations focus on Bibracte as a political, economic, and defensive hub, crucial in pre-Roman Gaul. Its prominence in trade networks and its role as a tribal capital are well documented, and historical accounts, including writings by Caesar, provide glimpses into its significance. Yet when we examine the site itself, anomalies emerge that spark further curiosity. Certain enclosures seem oversized or deliberately shaped. Some streets appear to follow non-intuitive routes, curving in ways that defy simple topographical logic. Could these designs have encoded symbolic or cosmological meaning, hidden in plain sight for those initiated into the community's knowledge? Speculative interpretations add to the fascination. Some researchers have proposed that Bibracte's layout reflects celestial or seasonal observation, with key alignments marking solstices or the passage of lunar cycles. Others point to the massive gates and ceremonial spaces as evidence that the oppidum was not only a center of administration, but also of ritual and initiation, where social hierarchy, spirituality, and civic life were intertwined. The precision of construction and planning suggests knowledge and skills that, while plausible in context, are remarkably difficult to replicate without the same cultural frameworks and organizational systems. Fringe theories, though not universally accepted, offer further layers of intrigue. Some suggest that Bibracte's placement atop Mont Bouvray was more than defensive. It may have functioned as a beacon across the region, marking territory, trade routes, or even serving as a celestial observatory. Others note that certain earthworks may have been intentionally shaped to align with distant landscape features, suggesting a sophisticated understanding of spatial relationships. While these interpretations remain speculative, they underscore a central truth. Bibracte is a site where practical, cultural, and possibly symbolic knowledge converge in ways that challenge modern assumptions. The oppidum's decline adds another layer of mystery. By the time of the Roman conquest, Bibracte had been largely abandoned in favor of nearby Augustodunum, yet its structures remained, silent witnesses to a sophisticated society. Archaeologists continue to study remnants of dwellings, streets, and fortifications, piecing together a picture of daily life, trade, and ritual. Yet for every discovery, new questions emerge. How were the ramparts maintained over centuries? What unseen knowledge guided the placement of streets, gates, and terraces? And what might have been lost when oral traditions and civic memory faded, leaving only stone and earth as testimony? Today, visitors ascending Mont Bouvray can trace the contours of the oppidum, walking along ramparts, through terraces, and across open plazas where life once thrived. The forest has reclaimed much of the site, yet the outlines of walls and streets remain, whispering of human ambition, organization, and ingenuity. There is a palpable sense that the builders of Bibracte understood not only how to manipulate their environment, but how to embed knowledge, power, and meaning into the very landscape, a feat difficult to replicate even in our modern age. Despite decades of excavation and research, Bibracte continues to resist full explanation. How were its fortifications engineered with such precision? What full significance lay behind the urban planning and alignment of structures? And perhaps most compelling, what knowledge, lost with the decline of the oppidum, remains encoded in its terraces, walls, and gates, waiting to be discerned by those patient enough to trace the patterns of a civilization that thrived in harmony with both the mountain and the sky? As the forested hills of Mont Bouvray fade behind us and the echoes of ancient Gaulish life linger among ramparts and terraces, our journey now sweeps across continents, across oceans and mountains, to the high valleys of the Bolivian Andes. Here, amidst dense subtropical forest and mist-laden slopes, rises a monolithic formation that has long captured the imagination of explorers, historians, and local communities alike. Samaipata Rock. From afar, it appears as a vast, irregular slab of granite, stretching over 600 meters in length and 200 meters wide, its surface scarred, carved, and etched in ways that defy immediate explanation. It is both natural and undeniably human, a fusion of raw geology and deliberate intent. Approaching Samaipata, the scale and detail of the site become impossible to ignore. The flat surface of the rock is covered in hundreds of carved channels, niches, and depressions, some of them forming patterns that suggest planning, symbolism, or purpose beyond mere decoration. These carvings range from simple cupels, small, round indentations, to elaborate geometric figures and possibly representations of celestial or topographical maps. The site's surface appears almost like a cosmic tablet, a record inscribed in stone that hints at knowledge both practical and mystical. Archaeologists date Samaipata to around the first millennium CE, though its use likely spans several centuries. Initially associated with the Chane people, who inhabited the region before the rise of the Inca, the site was later modified and expanded by the Incas, who incorporated their own religious and administrative functions. Evidence suggests that Samaipata served as a ceremonial center, a gathering place, and possibly even a fortress, given its strategic position overlooking the valley below. Yet despite these contextual clues, many aspects of the site remain puzzling. How were such precise carvings made on this massive granite surface, often in areas difficult to access? What purpose did the intricate patterns serve? And what knowledge, if any, was encoded within them? Mainstream interpretations suggest that Samaipata functioned as a sacred space, possibly used for ritual ceremonies, astronomical observation, or social gatherings. The Incas were known for incorporating natural features into their sacred landscapes, and Samaipata's location, elevated, commanding a panoramic view of the surrounding valleys, aligns with this pattern. Some of the carved channels could have been intended to carry offerings, liquids, or ceremonial substances, while certain depressions may have functioned as altars or focal points for ritual activity. Yet even with these practical explanations, the scale, complexity, and precision of the carvings challenge modern assumptions. Could such a large expanse of stone, with hundreds of interlinked features, have been fully planned and executed without a form of advanced surveying or spatial understanding lost to history? Further intrigue arises when considering the geometric and symbolic aspects of Samaipata. Certain carvings appear to form abstract maps or astronomical diagrams. Scholars have noted alignments between carved features and solar events, such as solstices or equinoxes, while others speculate that the rock's surface may represent a model of the surrounding landscape or sacred mountains. If true, this would imply a sophisticated integration of observation, symbolism, and engineering, an ability to translate three-dimensional space into detailed, enduring inscriptions on stone. How did the Chane or Inca planners conceptualize these patterns, and what methods did they use to translate vision into rock with such enduring precision? The layering of cultures adds to the enigma. Samaipata reflects centuries of human engagement, with earlier Chane carvings overlain or complemented by Inca additions. Some features suggest purely ceremonial intent, while others hint at administrative or defensive functions. Could the site have served multiple overlapping purposes, a hybrid of ritual, governance, and astronomical observation? And if so, how did successive cultures adapt and reinterpret the site while preserving its original essence? The interplay of continuity and adaptation suggests a place of enduring significance, yet its exact meaning remains elusive. Speculative theories offer even deeper mysteries. Some researchers have suggested that the carvings at Samaipata encode cosmological knowledge, perhaps mapping constellations, planetary movements, or seasonal cycles crucial to agriculture and ritual. Others propose that the rock functioned as a teaching tool, a repository of sacred knowledge accessible only to initiates or elites. Certain cupolas and channels, for example, appear arranged with intentional spacing and alignment, hinting at symbolic or numerological significance. While these interpretations cannot be confirmed, they underscore the sense that Samaipata was designed with layers of meaning, practical, symbolic, and spiritual, that may have been intentionally obscured from general view. The site's natural context further amplifies the mystery. Samaipata is both isolated and commanding, elevated above the forested valleys, yet accessible only through steep approaches. Its granite surface rises organically, shaped by erosion and geological processes, yet the human interventions blend seamlessly with this natural form. Did the builders perceive the rock itself as sacred, an active participant in ritual and observation? Was the selection of Samaipata as a site driven as much by its inherent shape and position as by human ingenuity? The rock seems to embody a dialogue between nature and culture, one that modern observers can appreciate but cannot fully replicate. Even the unfinished or worn areas of the rock add intrigue. Certain carvings appear incomplete, their purpose obscured, while natural fissures intersect deliberate incisions. Were these interruptions intentional, symbolic, or simply a reflection of the limitations of stoneworking tools? And what knowledge or ceremonies have been lost over time, leaving only the enduring enigma of the carved surfaces? The interplay of permanence and impermanence, human design and natural erosion, imbues Samaipata with a palpable sense of mystery. Walking across the rock today, one senses the deliberate intent behind every curve, channel, and depression. The surface is uneven yet ordered, chaotic yet harmonious, reflecting a vision that required not only technical skill but conceptual clarity and cultural purpose. From this vantage point, the Andes stretch in all directions, mountains rising like silent witnesses to human endeavor. The air is still, and the weight of centuries is almost tangible. Samaipata does not announce its secrets outright. It invites contemplation, observation, and wonder, allowing the imagination to trace the hands and minds that shaped this monumental canvas. Despite decades of research and archaeological study, Samaipata remains only partially understood. How were the carvings executed with such precision on a massive, uneven granite surface? What full spectrum of functions, ceremonial, astronomical, administrative, or symbolic, did the rock serve? And most compellingly, what knowledge, lost through the passage of centuries, remains encoded in its surface, waiting to be discerned by those patient and observant enough to read it? As twilight descends over the subtropical valleys of Bolivia and the Andes cast long shadows across the rock, Samaipata rises quietly, monumental yet intimate, enduring yet enigmatic. It is a site that bridges human ingenuity, ritual practice, and natural grandeur, a creation that challenges replication and defies easy explanation. And in the silence of that vast granite surface, one question lingers. What truths, hidden in its carvings, alignments, and contours, are waiting for a future observer to uncover, interpret, or simply marvel at, as the mysteries of Samaipata continue to endure across millennia? As the sun fades over the vast granite expanse of Samaipata, and its carved channels and enigmatic depressions retreat into shadow, our journey continues across the high plains of Bolivia, deeper into the Andes, to the ancient heart of the Tiwanaku civilization. Here, near the southern shores of Lake Titicaca, rises the Akapana Pyramid, a monumental terraced platform that dominates the surrounding landscape with a presence both imposing and mysterious. From a distance it appears as a stepped mound, its rectangular terraces ascending like layered stone giants. Yet closer examination reveals an intricate complexity that challenges both imagination and understanding. The Akapana pyramid, constructed from massive blocks of stone and compacted earth, rises approximately 18 meters above the surrounding plaza, its terraces stretching outward in a series of wide, imposing platforms. Archaeological surveys reveal that it was originally surrounded by a system of canals and reservoirs designed to channel and contain water in ways that suggest both practical and ritual intent. The pyramid is not merely an architectural achievement. It is a feat of hydraulic engineering, a testament to a civilization that manipulated both stone and liquid with remarkable skill. Dating back to at least 500 CE, the Akapana pyramid served as a central ceremonial complex for the Tiwanaku, one of the most sophisticated pre-Columbian cultures of the Andes. Excavations reveal that the mound was constructed in multiple phases, with terraces added and reshaped over centuries, reflecting evolving architectural and ceremonial practices. Large stone blocks, some weighing several tons, were transported across difficult terrain, yet no evidence exists of wheeled vehicles. How did the Tiwanaku move, lift, and place these massive stones with such precision? And why invest such extraordinary effort in a structure whose scale, complexity, and function remain partially obscured by time? Mainstream interpretations suggest that Akapana was a ritual center, a space where ceremonies, offerings, and perhaps even water-related rites took place. The network of canals and reservoirs may have allowed the Tiwanaku to create reflective pools, integrating water into the ceremonial landscape and symbolically linking the heavens, earth, and underworld. Burials and artifacts discovered in association with the pyramid point to its sacred function, yet the exact nature of its rituals remains unknown. The terraces themselves are aligned with cardinal directions, implying astronomical or cosmological significance, yet the reasoning behind specific placements and proportional relationships has yet to be fully understood. The ingenuity of Akapana lies not only in its scale, but in its precision and adaptability. The pyramid was built atop a naturally elevated plateau, yet terraces and retaining walls were carefully shaped to account for both load distribution and erosion. Certain stones exhibit near-perfect flat surfaces, and channels carved into the terraces suggest intentional design to manage rainfall and runoff. How did the builders achieve such structural stability without modern surveying tools or formal engineering theory? Could they have understood principles of balance, stress distribution, and hydrodynamics in ways that remain lost to contemporary knowledge? Beyond technical mastery, Akapana embodies an interplay of symbolism and power. The pyramid's terraces may have represented tiers of social hierarchy or cosmological planes, with each level serving a distinct function in ritual or civic activity. The strategic placement of large monolithic stones, some carved with intricate motifs, indicates a deliberate layering of meaning. Were these carvings purely decorative, or did they encode mythological, astronomical, or calendrical knowledge? Could the terraces themselves, when viewed from specific vantage points, align with celestial events, solar movements, or sacred topography of the surrounding Andes? Speculative theories deepen the intrigue. Some researchers suggest that Akapana was deliberately engineered to mimic the surrounding mountains, integrating the natural landscape into its sacred design, creating a visual and symbolic echo of the Andes themselves. Others propose that the pyramid functioned as a ceremonial reservoir, with water flowing along its terraces during rituals to create both sound and visual spectacle, amplifying the impact of sacred ceremonies. Certain stone alignments appear to correspond with the rising and setting points of the sun during solstices, hinting at advanced astronomical observation. Yet the full scope of these alignments is still debated. Fringe interpretations go further, suggesting that Akapana may have been a repository of hidden knowledge. Could the arrangement of stones, terraces, and water channels have encoded information about agricultural cycles, astronomical events, or cosmology? Some propose that the pyramid functioned as a teaching or initiatory space, where priests and elites accessed knowledge carefully integrated into architecture and landscape. While such interpretations cannot be conclusively proven, they underscore the sense that Akapana was designed with multiple layers of function, practical, ceremonial, and symbolic, woven seamlessly into its structure. The pyramid's enduring mystery is heightened by the sheer scale and precision of construction. Blocks weighing multiple tons were quarried from distant locations and transported across uneven terrain. Terraces rise with consistent height and width, forming a platform that remains stable despite centuries of exposure to wind, rain, and seismic activity. Could such precision have been achieved without a highly organized workforce, specialized knowledge, and long-term planning? And if so, what social, cultural, or spiritual forces motivated such extraordinary effort? Today, as the sun casts long shadows across the Akapana terraces, the pyramid rises quietly over the surrounding plains, a testament to human ingenuity and vision. From its summit, one can gaze across Lake Titicaca, the surrounding valleys and distant peaks, sensing the deliberate placement of every stone and channel. It is a sight that invites contemplation, observation, and wonder, challenging assumptions about what pre-Columbian societies were capable of achieving. Its design is not merely functional, it is immersive, intentional, and enduring, an embodiment of knowledge, power, and ritual that resonates across the centuries. Despite decades of excavation and study, Akapana continues to defy complete understanding. How were its massive stones quarried, transported, and assembled with such precision? What precise role did the terraces, canals, and pools play in ceremonial or social life? And most compelling, what knowledge, lost with the decline of the Tiwanaku civilization, remains encoded within the stone, waiting for those patient enough to decipher its lessons? As twilight deepens over the Altiplano, and the silhouette of Akapana stands stark against the evening sky, the pyramid seems at once monumental and intimate, a creation that bridges human ingenuity, engineering, and spiritual vision. It is a sight impossible to replicate with the same mastery, ambition, and layered meaning, yet its presence continues to inspire awe. And in the quiet of that high plateau, one question lingers. What secrets of structure, ceremony, and cosmic understanding remain hidden within the terraces of Akapana, waiting to be uncovered? Or perhaps simply marveled at by those who gaze upon it with patient curiosity? As the high plains of the Bolivian Altiplano fall into shadow and the Akapana pyramid recedes from view, with its terraced stonework and enigmatic channels whispering secrets of a civilization that mastered both architecture and hydraulics, our journey turns northward, across oceans and mountains, to the misted hills of Anglesey, off the northwestern coast of Wales. Here, amidst rolling green fields and ancient oak groves, lies Bryn Celli Ddu, a passage tomb that has stood silently for over 5,000 years. Unlike the monumental pyramids or expansive terraces we have encountered, Bryn Celli Ddu is intimate, almost hidden, yet its presence resonates with profound mystery and sophistication. At first glance, Bryn Celli Ddu appears as a modest mound, a grassy rise set within the landscape. But closer inspection reveals the careful design of a structure that blends natural earthworks with precise stone construction. A narrow passage, formed of carefully placed standing stones, leads into the tomb's interior chamber, a space barely wide enough for a single person to enter, yet imbued with a sense of deliberate proportion and sacred intent. Surrounding the mound are remnants of a stone circle and a later outer ditch, evidence that this site was not merely a burial place, but a ceremonial center, carefully integrated into the landscape. Archaeologists date Bryn Celli Ddu to the Neolithic period, around 3000 BCE, making it contemporaneous with other passage tombs across the British Isles. Excavations reveal that it was originally constructed as a stone passage leading into a central chamber, where human remains were interred alongside carefully placed artifacts. Its design is aligned with celestial events. The passage is oriented so that during the summer solstice, the rising sun illuminates the chamber, casting light deep into its interior. This precise alignment demonstrates not only remarkable observational skill, but also a symbolic awareness, linking death, ritual, and the cycles of the sun in ways that remain compelling millennia later. Mainstream interpretations emphasize Bryn Celli Ddu's role as a funerary and ceremonial site, a place where Neolithic communities connected with the cycles of life, death, and nature. Yet even within this framework, mysteries abound. The construction techniques required to transport, shape, and place the stones with such precision are not fully understood. Some stones weigh several tons, and the alignment of the passage with the solstice sun would have required careful observation and planning. How did these early communities measure time and space so accurately without written records or advanced tools? What knowledge guided their decisions, and how was it transmitted across generations? The surrounding landscape deepens the intrigue. Bryn Celli Ddu is situated on a ridge overlooking lower fields and marshes, suggesting that the site was chosen for both prominence and symbolic significance. Nearby, smaller ritual sites and standing stones hint at a broader sacred landscape, where human activity was carefully orchestrated to align with natural features and celestial patterns. Could the Neolithic builders have envisioned this entire region as a network of ritual spaces, each connected through sightlines, symbolism, and cosmology? And if so, what principles governed the placement of such sites, and how much of that knowledge has been lost to time? Speculative interpretations invite further wonder. Some researchers propose that Bryn Celli Ddu was not merely a tomb, but also a calendar or observatory, encoding the solar and lunar cycles into its passage and chamber. Others suggest that the site served as an initiatory space, where select members of the community participated in rituals designed to align human consciousness with cosmic cycles. Certain carvings inside the chamber, including spirals and abstract motifs, hint at symbolic or spiritual meanings that remain largely undeciphered. Could these designs represent astronomical knowledge, mythological narratives, or even a system of memory and instruction? Fringe theories deepen the mystery further. Some suggest that the mound and passage were deliberately designed to interact with sound, creating acoustic effects that amplified chants or ritualized speech. Others note the interplay of light and shadow during the solstice, proposing that the builders had a nuanced understanding of solar angles and celestial observation, perhaps surpassing what we might expect from Neolithic communities. While these interpretations are difficult to verify conclusively, they underscore the sense that Bryn Celli Ddu was conceived with multiple layers of purpose: ceremonial, astronomical, social, and symbolic, woven together in a way that challenges modern assumptions about what could be achieved with the tools of the era. The layering of history adds to the enigma. Evidence suggests that Bryn Celli Ddu was altered over centuries. The original tomb may have been a simple earthen mound, later replaced with a stone-lined passage and chamber. The outer ditch, partially surrounding the mound, appears to have been added later, perhaps to enhance the sacred nature of the site or to delineate its ceremonial boundary. This interplay of construction phases reflects a continuity of cultural significance, where successive generations respected and adapted the original site while adding their own innovations. How much of the original intent was preserved, and how much was reinterpreted through evolving ritual and belief? Even today, the passage tomb exerts a subtle power over those who visit. Entering the narrow corridor, one feels the deliberate compression of space, the play of light and shadow as the sun rises and penetrates the chamber at the solstice. It is a moment of alignment, of human presence harmonizing with celestial motion, echoing rituals performed thousands of years ago. The carvings, worn smooth by centuries of touch and exposure, hint at intentions that are both functional and symbolic, yet remain frustratingly opaque. Despite extensive archaeological study, Bryn Celli Ddu continues to resist full explanation. How did Neolithic builders achieve such precise solar alignment without written records or modern instruments? What knowledge guided the transport, placement, and orientation of the stones, and how was it preserved over generations? And most compellingly, what was the full spectrum of ritual, social, and symbolic significance encoded in this mound, waiting silently for those capable of interpreting its subtle language? As twilight deepens over Anglesey and shadows stretch across the ridge, Bryn Celli Ddu stands quietly, a testament to human ingenuity, observation, and devotion. Its passage, chamber, and carvings are both tangible and intangible, physical expressions of thought, ritual, and cosmology, yet still whispering secrets beyond our comprehension. It is a sight impossible to fully replicate with the same precision, alignment, and layered meaning, yet it remains accessible to those willing to approach with patience, curiosity, and respect. And in the stillness of that ancient mound, one question lingers. What truths, encoded in stone, shadow, and light, remain hidden at Bryn Celli Ddu, waiting to be discovered, or perhaps only contemplated, by those who seek to understand the minds and intentions of those who built this passage tomb so many millennia ago? As the sun dips behind the distant peaks of Anglesey and Bryn Celli Ddu recedes into shadow, its passage tomb and solstice-aligned chamber leaving whispers of ancient ritual, our journey turns once more to the highlands of the Andes, where the air thins and the landscape becomes both wild and sacred. In southern Peru, nestled on a remote plateau above the shimmering waters of Lake Titicaca, lies one of the most enigmatic and little understood sites in all of the Andes, Aramu Muru. Unlike sprawling pyramids or massive stone cities, Aramu Muru presents itself as a single, striking anomaly, a doorway carved into a sheer volcanic cliff, smooth, precise, and impossibly deliberate in its execution, earning its local name, the Gate of the Gods. From a distance, the doorway appears almost unremarkable against the reddish-brown volcanic rock, yet as one draws closer, its scale, precision, and stark geometry become undeniable. The rectangular opening, cut into the cliff face, rises nearly 2 meters tall and is framed by perfectly straight edges, corners chiseled with a precision that seems almost unnatural. Surrounding the portal is a flat expanse of rock, its surface unusually smooth for a natural formation, bearing faint channels and depressions that some suggest may have once held offerings, water, or ceremonial objects. The overall effect is simultaneously minimal and monumental, evoking a sense of both human craftsmanship and otherworldly intent. Mainstream scholarship on Aramu Muru is limited, due largely to the site's isolation and the scarcity of physical artifacts. It is generally accepted that the site was carved by pre-Columbian peoples, possibly the Aymara, who inhabited the region before the expansion of the Inca Empire. Yet, beyond its craftsmanship, little is known. There are no adjacent structures, no clear habitation remains, and few tools or inscriptions to explain its purpose. How did its creators transport, shape, and cut the rock with such precision, often on a vertical cliff face, without modern tools? And why carve a doorway where no walls, corridors, or chambers exist behind it? The absence of conventional architectural context amplifies the mystery. Some researchers suggest that Aramu Muru may have served a ritual or ceremonial purpose rather than a practical one. The site's location, elevated above the surrounding plateau, offers expansive views of the highlands, the distant Andes, and the sacred waters of Lake Titicaca. In Andean cosmology, elevated natural features often functioned as intermediaries between the human and divine realms. Could Aramu Muru have acted as a symbolic portal, a focus of ritual activity intended to bridge the physical world and the spiritual? The smoothness of the stone, the precision of the cut, and the deliberate framing of the doorway suggest intention beyond mere decoration or commemoration. The enigmatic nature of Aramu Muru is further heightened by its apparent lack of functional purpose. Unlike the elaborate temples, terraces, and urban complexes of Tiwanaku or Samaipata, this site seems to exist as an isolated, singular object. There are no interior chambers, no storage spaces, no discernible passages. Yet the stone is sculpted with such care that it implies mastery of technique and a conscious investment of effort. Was this doorway a ceremonial marker, a place where offerings were left, or a symbol meant to represent thresholds between life and death, the earthly and the divine, the known and the unknown? The ambiguity of intent invites speculation, challenging assumptions about the intersection of utility, ritual, and symbolism in Andean societies. Local legend only deepens the mystery. According to oral accounts, Aramu Muru served as a portal through which divine beings could pass, or even as a gateway for humans who had attained sacred knowledge. Some stories describe individuals entering the doorway and vanishing, suggesting a metaphysical or transcendental function, while others speak of treasures hidden beyond its frame. While such tales cannot be corroborated archaeologically, they reflect the site's enduring significance in local imagination and point to a deeper symbolic resonance that may have persisted for centuries. Could these myths be remnants of ritual memory, encoded in story rather than stone? The precision of the doorway also hints at advanced understanding of stoneworking techniques. The cuts are sharp and straight, edges meeting at near-perfect right angles, suggesting not only skill but perhaps methods of measurement or alignment lost to history. Some researchers note faint channels around the doorway, possibly designed to hold metal fittings or wooden frames, while others observe grooves that may have served as conduits for liquid offerings. If these features were functional, how were they used, and what significance did they hold in ritual practice? And if symbolic, what knowledge or cosmology were the creators attempting to encode into the rock itself? Speculative interpretations further expand the intrigue. Some suggest that Aramu Muru was intended as a celestial observatory, its doorway aligning with specific solar or lunar events, or serving as a marker for seasonal cycles critical to agriculture or ritual. Others propose that the site functioned as an initiatory or meditative space, where selected individuals engaged in rites designed to connect with spiritual realms. The doorway may have represented the threshold between worlds, a liminal point where the physical and metaphysical intersected. Its very isolation, standing alone on the cliff face, enhances this impression, making it a locus of concentrated symbolic and ritual power. Fringe theories, though speculative, underline the sense of the impossible. Some researchers and enthusiasts propose that the doorway is part of a network of energy or geomantic points across the Andes, each designed to channel spiritual or cosmic forces. Others link Aramu Muru to legends of lost civilizations or advanced technologies, suggesting that the precision and purpose of the doorway reflect knowledge beyond what conventional archaeology can currently explain. While such ideas cannot be verified, they underscore the site's enduring power to challenge perception and spark imagination. Walking to the doorway today, one feels the deliberate quiet of the plateau, the wind carrying the scent of highland grass and volcanic stone. The cliffs stretch upward, and the doorway's edges, smooth and exact, seem almost to glow in the shifting light. There is a sense of invitation, of threshold, and yet also of caution, the impression that this is a place designed to be contemplated, respected, and approached with care. The rock itself seems alive, preserving memory and meaning in a form that refuses replication or simplification. Despite centuries of study and exploration, Aramu Muru continues to resist definitive explanation. How was this doorway cut with such precision into sheer rock? What was its intended function, if not to shelter, store, or pass through? And most compellingly, what knowledge, spiritual, cosmological, or ritual, remains encoded in the stone, accessible only to those willing to consider the site on its own terms, through observation, imagination, and reverence? As twilight settles over the plateau and the Andes stretch into the haze of dusk, Aramu Muru stands silently, monumental yet intimate, simple yet profoundly enigmatic. It is a creation that challenges replication, understanding, and even imagination, a doorway that connects human ingenuity with mystery, craftsmanship with legend. And in that quiet presence, one question lingers. What truths, hidden in its smooth edges and precise frame, remain waiting to be discovered, or perhaps only marveled at, by those who approach the gate of the gods with patience, curiosity, and awe? As the Andes fade behind us and Aramu Muru retreats into memory, its smooth doorway and whispered legends still echoing across the Peruvian highlands, our journey turns once more, this time across continents and into the heart of the Mediterranean. On the island of Sardinia, amidst gently rolling plains and volcanic hills, rises a singular, enigmatic structure, Monte Alegre. Unlike the towering pyramids of distant lands or the precise monoliths of the Andes, Monte Alegre presents itself as an unusual, step-like platform, a massive raised terrace whose origin and purpose continue to puzzle archaeologists and historians alike. From a distance, Monte Alegre resembles an ancient ziggurat, a stepped mound abruptly rising from the surrounding landscape, its tiers broad and flat, extending horizontally in geometric precision. Its base measures approximately 36 meters on each side, and its height reaches nearly 8 meters above the surrounding plain. The platform is constructed from large blocks of basalt, stacked with surprising uniformity, and the remaining terraces suggest a deliberate symmetry. The slopes are steep yet accessible, with a ramp or causeway leading to the top, hinting at ceremonial processions or gatherings. Despite its simplicity, the monument exudes an imposing presence, drawing the eye and commanding attention over miles of Sardinian countryside. Archaeologists date Monte Alegre to the late Neolithic or early Chalcolithic period, around 4000 to 3500 BCE, making it one of the earliest known monumental constructions in Western Europe. The mound is associated with the Ozieri culture, a society recognized for its ceramic artistry, megalithic tombs, and ritual spaces. Excavations reveal that the structure's terraces were carefully leveled and stabilized, with evidence of ritual deposits at the summit, including offerings of pottery, tools, and animal remains. These findings suggest that the site was a focal point of ceremonial life, possibly dedicated to religious rites, communal gatherings, or symbolic acts linking the human and natural world. Yet Monte Alegre remains enigmatic in ways that defy straightforward explanation. Unlike the pyramids of Egypt or Mesoamerica, it lacks internal chambers, intricate stonework, or elaborate inscriptions. Its form is architectural, monumental, yet functionally opaque. How did Neolithic builders conceptualize and execute such a precise geometric platform with the rudimentary tools available at the time? How did they move and place massive basalt blocks, some weighing several tons, without the aid of pulleys, levers, or wheeled transport? The more one studies Monte Alegre, the more it becomes apparent that its design reflects not only technical skill, but also a profound understanding of scale, balance, and human perception. The platform's terrace design invites speculation about its symbolic and functional purposes. Mainstream interpretations suggest that Monte Alegre served as a religious or ritual site, a raised altar where offerings and ceremonies could be conducted away from the ground, perhaps symbolically closer to the heavens. The top terrace may have hosted rites aligned with seasonal cycles, with the raised position enhancing visibility and emphasizing hierarchy or sacred authority. Could the stepped construction itself hold meaning, representing levels of spiritual ascent, social order, or cosmological planes? The absence of walls, chambers, or fortifications underscores that its significance was likely symbolic rather than defensive. Yet the monument's very presence conveys power, permanence, and intent. Further intrigue arises when considering the site's alignment. Some researchers have proposed that the ramp and terraces of Monte Alegre align with solar or lunar events, echoing patterns observed in other prehistoric monuments across Europe. Certain solstitial or equinoctial alignments may have been intentional, guiding ceremonial activity and marking time through observation of the sun and moon. If so, the builders would have needed sophisticated astronomical knowledge encoded in the site's geometry and orientation. How such knowledge was acquired, measured, and applied without written records remains an open question. Speculative interpretations deepen the mystery. Some suggest that Monte Alegre functioned as a symbolic ziggurat, a monumental axis connecting the earth with the sky, echoing similar constructions in Mesopotamia, though there is no evidence of direct cultural contact. Could the builders have independently conceived a form resonant with universal human inclinations toward verticality and hierarchy? Others propose that the platform served as a ceremonial staging area, where participants engaged in processions, offerings, or dances, their movements synchronized with the architecture to produce visual or auditory effects. The causeway leading to the summit, elevated above the surrounding plain, suggests deliberate control of access and perspective, heightening the drama and ritual significance of ascent. The enduring mystery of Monte Alegre is compounded by the site's isolation and context. Unlike later monumental complexes, the platform is not embedded within a larger urban settlement. Surrounding fields reveal traces of Neolithic habitation, but nothing on the scale of the structure itself. Why was such effort expended in a largely solitary location? What drove a society of small-scale farmers and artisans to create a monument of such size, precision, and permanence, one that would stand for millennia without clear, functional utility? Was the site intended as a visual focal point, a cosmological marker, or a spiritual conduit, or perhaps all of these simultaneously? Fringe theories, while speculative, add another dimension to Monte Alegre's allure. Some suggest that the platform may have been designed for advanced ceremonial or even ritualistic knowledge, incorporating acoustic, optical, or symbolic properties not immediately apparent to casual observers. Others speculate about lost technologies or cosmological insights embedded in its geometry, hinting that the monument was intended to encode knowledge across generations. While these ideas remain unproven, they underscore the sense that Monte Alegre was conceived with multiple layers of purpose: practical, ceremonial, symbolic, and possibly even metaphysical. Walking along the terraces today, one senses both the simplicity and the sophistication of the design. The ramp rises gradually, guiding visitors to the summit, while the flat platform invites contemplation of both the immediate landscape and the wider horizon. The basalt blocks, weathered by millennia of wind and rain, retain a sense of deliberate order, a tangible record of human intention carefully integrated with the natural environment. The monument conveys presence without ornament, authority without enclosure, a statement of human creativity and conceptual vision rendered in stone. Despite centuries of study, Monte Alegre continues to resist full understanding. How did its builders achieve such geometric precision and scale with the tools and knowledge of the Neolithic? What full spectrum of ritual, social, and symbolic meaning is encoded in its terraces, ramp, and elevated summit? And perhaps most compelling, what knowledge, lost with the passage of millennia, lies hidden within this monumental platform, waiting for patient observation, careful thought, or intuitive perception to uncover? As the evening light softens across the Sardinian plains, Monte Alegre rises silently, monumental yet restrained, imposing yet intimately connected to the earth and sky. It is a creation that challenges replication, understanding, and imagination alike, a testament to human ingenuity, observation, and ritual practice. And in the stillness of that high plain, one question lingers. What truths, encoded in stone, geometry, and elevation, remain waiting to be discovered, or perhaps only contemplated, at Monte Alegre, the silent ziggurat of Sardinia's distant past? As the sun sets over the Sardinian plains and Monte Alegre retreats into shadow, its stepped terraces and enigmatic causeway lingering in the mind, our journey shifts once more, this time northward, across the rugged landscapes of the Caucasus. In the Armenian highlands, among rolling hills and wind-swept valleys, lies one of the oldest and least understood megalithic sites in the world. Karahunj, sometimes called the Armenian Stonehenge. Here, over 2,000 stones rise from the earth, scattered across the plateau with a precision that is both mesmerizing and confounding, a silent testament to the ingenuity of a culture long vanished. From a distance, Karahunj resembles a natural rocky outcrop, yet as one approaches, the patterning of its stones becomes unmistakable. Hundreds of vertically standing basalt pillars punctuate the landscape, many carved with circular holes drilled through their centers, aligned in curving rows and radial patterns that suggest deliberate planning. The site covers several hectares, with some stones weighing several tons, and their arrangement hints at a knowledge of geometry, orientation, and possibly astronomy that is remarkably sophisticated for a site dated to the 3rd millennium BCE. It is immediately clear that Karahunj is not a random collection of rocks, but a carefully constructed ensemble with a purpose that still eludes complete understanding. Archaeologists generally agree that Karahunj predates Stonehenge by over 1,000 years, with estimates placing its construction around 4,500 to 3,500 BCE. While its exact function remains uncertain, studies suggest that the site may have served multiple roles: a ceremonial center, a social gathering place, and a hub for astronomical observation. The alignment of many pillars with the positions of the sun, moon, and certain prominent stars indicates that the builders had an awareness of celestial cycles, perhaps using the stones to mark solstices, equinoxes, or other astronomical events critical to agricultural and ritual calendars. Yet the precision required for such alignments raises questions. How did a Neolithic or early Bronze Age society achieve such understanding without written records, modern instruments, or advanced mathematical tools? The holes drilled through many of the pillars add another layer of mystery. Mainstream theories propose that they may have been used as sighting devices for tracking celestial bodies, or as conduits for sound during ritual activities. Some researchers have suggested that light could pass through the holes in specific ways at certain times of year, creating alignments or effects that would have had symbolic or spiritual significance. Others speculate that the holes could have served purely ceremonial purposes, perhaps as part of rites of passage, offerings, or initiatory rituals. Whatever the intention, these drilled stones speak of a deliberate interaction with natural forces, a blending of stone, sky, and human perception. Karahunj's layout further complicates interpretation. Stones are arranged in concentric arcs, radial lines, and clusters whose precise purpose remains debated. Some alignments correspond with the rising or setting points of major stars, while others may reflect topographical or geological considerations. Could the placement of each stone reflect a sophisticated integration of observational astronomy, landscape awareness, and ritual design? And if so, what knowledge guided these choices, and how was it transmitted across generations without the aid of writing? The sheer scale and precision of the site suggest a coordinated effort by a highly organized community, yet no evidence of permanent structures or urban development accompanies the monument. Why invest such extraordinary effort in a site whose use appears symbolic, ceremonial, or observational rather than utilitarian? Speculative interpretations deepen the mystery further. Some researchers propose that Karahunj functioned as a proto-observatory, encoding information about lunar cycles, planetary positions, or stellar phenomena. Could the ancient builders have been tracking complex patterns in the night sky, creating a monumental calendar carved in stone? Others suggest that the site may have served as a spiritual portal, connecting human consciousness with celestial forces or ancestral spirits. The concentric arcs and radial patterns invite reflection on symmetry, order, and cosmic design, hinting at a worldview where the heavens, the earth, and human activity were intimately intertwined. Fringe theories abound, fueled by the site's enigmatic appearance and remote location. Some enthusiasts argue that Karahunj represents a repository of lost astronomical knowledge, predating other known observatories by millennia. Others speculate that the site was designed to harness energies, both spiritual and geomantic, or to act as a ritual conduit between realms of the living and the divine. While these interpretations cannot be verified scientifically, they emphasize the sense that Karahunj was conceived with multiple layers of meaning, practical, ceremonial, symbolic, and possibly metaphysical, woven into a single cohesive landscape. The physicality of the stones adds to the wonder. Many pillars weigh several tons, yet were quarried, transported, and positioned with extraordinary care. Some of the taller stones are shaped with flat surfaces, while others bear carved motifs or markings that remain undeciphered. How did the builders move such massive objects across the uneven terrain of the Armenian highlands? Did they employ simple but ingenious tools, human coordination, or techniques that are lost to history? And why choose basalt, a hard, dense rock, over softer or more accessible materials? The answers, like the site itself, remain elusive, suggesting a combination of practicality, symbolism, and intent beyond simple construction. Equally compelling is the context of the site within the surrounding landscape. Karahunj occupies an elevated plateau with panoramic views of the surrounding valleys and mountains, a position that reinforces its prominence and possibly its ceremonial significance. It is both visually commanding and geographically strategic, a focal point in a landscape that would have been both familiar and sacred to its builders. Could the placement of the site, its orientation, and its relationship to nearby natural features reflect a sophisticated understanding of geography, cosmology, and human perception? And if so, what principles informed these choices, and how might they relate to broader cultural and spiritual practices in the region? Walking among the standing stones today, one feels both the simplicity and the complexity of Karahunj. The silence of the plateau is profound, interrupted only by wind and distant wildlife, yet the arrangement of pillars conveys deliberate order, rhythm, and intent. There is a sense of engagement with natural forces. Light and shadow shift across the stones, revealing alignments and patterns that would have been visible to ancient observers. The drilled holes, arcs, and radial layouts encourage reflection on human perception, time, and the cosmos, offering a space where both mystery and insight coexist. Despite extensive research, Karahunj continues to resist complete understanding. How were these stones positioned and aligned with such precision? What knowledge guided their placement, shaping, and orientation? And most intriguingly, What combination of astronomical observation, ritual practice, and symbolic intent is encoded in this vast field of megaliths, waiting silently for interpretation? The answers may forever remain partially hidden, yet the monument itself continues to speak across millennia, a testament to human ingenuity, observation, and the desire to connect with forces larger than ourselves. As twilight descends over the Armenian highlands, casting long shadows across the plateau, Karahunj rises quietly, monumental yet intimate, orderly yet enigmatic. Its stones, drilled and aligned, arcs and clusters, form a landscape that is simultaneously tangible and intangible, a creation that is impossible to replicate, yet deeply human in its vision. And in the stillness of that ancient plateau, one question lingers. What truths, encoded in stone, shadow, and celestial alignment, remain waiting to be discovered, or simply marveled at, by those who approach Karahunj with patience, curiosity, and awe? As the stones of Karahunj recede into the mist of the Armenian highlands, their silent alignments and mysterious drilled holes lingering in memory, our journey of unexplained human ingenuity brings us to a very different kind of artifact, one crafted not from earth or rock, but from papyrus, ink, and human observation. The Turin Papyrus map, preserved across millennia in the collections of Egypt, is widely regarded as the world's oldest known topographic map. Unlike the monuments we have explored, temples, pyramids, passage tombs, and megalithic observatories, this is a record of knowledge captured on a fragile surface. Yet its complexity, precision, and purpose remain as puzzling and remarkable as any stone structure. At first glance, the papyrus itself is unassuming, a strip of brittle material, browned by time, measuring roughly 2 feet long and adorned with delicate lines, hieroglyphs, and color washes of ochre, black, and green. Yet beneath this fragile exterior lies an astonishing degree of sophistication. The map depicts a stretch of the Wadi Hammamate region in Egypt, detailing not only mountains, valleys, and waterways, but also quarries, rock types, and mineral deposits. It is a working document, a guide for practical activity, yet its careful construction suggests a level of observation, measurement, and planning that exceeds the ordinary. Every line and symbol appears deliberate, every annotation precise, yet the reasoning behind some choices remains enigmatic. The Turin Papyrus map dates to the reign of Pharaoh Ramses IV, around 1150 BCE, during Egypt's New Kingdom, a period renowned for monumental architecture, organized labor, and administrative sophistication. Scholars generally agree that it was created to guide a mining expedition to the Wadi Hammamate quarries, known for their prized Greywaka stone, used in statues and sarcophagi, and possibly for gold and other mineral resources. Hieroglyphic annotations indicate routes, distances, and points of interest along the way. Yet the map's scale, perspective, and depiction of terrain suggest more than a simple navigational aid. It is a combination of technical blueprint, visual record, and symbolic document. How did the mapmaker measure and represent distances, elevations, and geological features without modern surveying tools? And what knowledge or techniques enabled such fidelity in translating three-dimensional landscapes onto a flat surface? One of the most striking aspects of the Turin Papyrus map is its representation of mountains. Unlike other Egyptian maps of the era, which often relied on symbolic or stylized depictions, the mountains here are rendered with a degree of relief, color, and proportionality that conveys an almost three-dimensional quality. Peaks are outlined with precision, valleys are indicated with shading, and the paths between them are drawn with careful consideration of topography. Could this level of detail imply an advanced understanding of observation, cartography, and geological surveying for the time? And if so, how widely was this knowledge disseminated, And why does it appear so singularly refined in this particular document? The inclusion of mineral deposits further adds to the map's intrigue. Certain areas are marked with annotations identifying gold-bearing quartz or other stones of economic and ritual significance. These markings were not merely functional. They were encoded with practical and symbolic information, intended to guide the expedition while signaling points of sacred or ceremonial interest. Yet the decision to integrate such data into a single map, balancing topography, resources, and routes, reflects a level of planning and foresight that is extraordinary for the period. How did the creators know where to place these symbols, and to what extent were they derived from empirical observation versus inherited knowledge? Speculative interpretations invite deeper reflection. Some researchers suggest that the map was not simply a mining guide, but a ritual document, connecting economic activity with sacred landscapes. The Wadi Hammamat region was historically significant, associated with pilgrimage, ritual offerings, and cosmic symbolism. Could the map, in its detail and layout, reflect an understanding of the landscape as both practical and spiritual, a space where labor, resource extraction, and sacred practice intersected? Others note that the representation of mountains and valleys may encode knowledge of celestial alignments, using the terrain to mirror cosmic order, though this remains highly debated. The precision and sophistication of the map have also prompted more speculative questions. Could the cartographer have employed techniques lost to history, such as observational geometry, proportional grids, or visual triangulation? The map's ability to convey distances and elevations accurately over several kilometers suggests methods of measurement that are rarely associated with this era. And yet, the map exists as a single, surviving artifact. No other documents of comparable detail have been found from the same period, raising the question, was this an isolated genius, a standardized practice, or the tip of a larger lost tradition of cartography? Beyond technical mastery, the Turin Papyrus map carries a philosophical weight. It represents a human attempt to master, comprehend, and navigate space, not merely for survival or commerce, but through meticulous documentation and representation. In that sense, it resonates with the other sites we have explored, from Aramu Muru's cliff doorway to Monte Alegre's stepped terraces. Each is an expression of human engagement with landscape, knowledge, and the unknown. The map externalizes understanding, making the unseen visible, the complex legible, and the vast navigable. Fringe theories have emerged as well, fueled by the map's age, precision, and unique qualities. Some suggest that it may encode knowledge of mineralogy, engineering, or surveying techniques that surpass conventional assumptions about New Kingdom Egypt. Others speculate that the map's accuracy and detail indicate a symbolic or metaphysical dimension, transforming a practical guide into a representation of sacred landscapes, cosmic order, or human mastery of the natural world. While these ideas cannot be verified definitively, they underscore the continuing fascination with this singular artifact and the questions it raises about human ingenuity, observation, and intentionality. Even today, examining the Turin Papyrus map evokes a sense of quiet wonder. Its fragile surface, brittle and worn, carries lines and colors that have survived over 3 millennia. Each mountain, each path, each symbol reflects not just the landscape of the Wadi Hammamat, but also the mind of its creator, someone capable of seeing, measuring, interpreting, and recording with extraordinary clarity. The map is a bridge between past and present, a tangible connection to human thought, planning, and the desire to understand and shape the world. Despite extensive study, many questions remain. How were the distances and elevations measured with such accuracy? Why was the map created in this particular format, combining topography, resources, and symbolic elements? And most compellingly, what other knowledge, lost with the papyrus's contemporaries, remains hidden in its lines, awaiting interpretation by those who can read not just the hieroglyphs, but the intent and vision behind them. As the light of the modern world illuminates the fragile edges of the papyrus, one can almost envision the desert sun casting shadows across the Wadi Hammamat, the quarries alive with laborers, priests, and guides. The map captures this landscape in miniature, yet it transcends mere representation. It is, like many of the sites and artifacts we have explored, impossible to replicate fully, not merely in technique or accuracy, but in the integration of observation, purpose, and vision. And in that realization, a question lingers. What other insights into human ingenuity, perception, and the interaction of knowledge and landscape remain hidden, waiting silently on fragile papyrus, massive stones, or the contours of the earth, waiting for those patient enough to see, study, and wonder? As the delicate lines of the Turin Papyrus map fade into the mind's eye, their mountains, paths, and mineral deposits echoing across millennia, our journey once again moves from crafted documents to the raw embrace of the natural world. From the deserts and quarries of Egypt, we travel across continents to the lush forests and river valleys of South America, where the Monte Alegre rock shelters in northern Brazil reveal a profound intersection of human presence, artistry, and mystery. Here, hidden within cliffs overlooking the Amazonian floodplain, lie caves and overhangs that preserve some of the earliest evidence of human occupation in the region, along with enigmatic rock paintings that continue to challenge our understanding of prehistoric expression and knowledge. At first glance, Monte Alegre is unassuming. The cliffs rise gently above the plains, composed of sandstone smoothed by millennia of wind and water. But the surfaces of these rocks conceal an extraordinary story, etched and painted in vivid red, black, and yellow pigments. Figures of animals, geometric patterns, spirals, and enigmatic symbols cover the walls and ceilings of the shelters. Their forms, sometimes naturalistic, sometimes abstract, but always intentional. Among them are depictions of giant sloths, fish, and other fauna, alongside motifs that defy straightforward interpretation, concentric circles, grids, and lines whose purpose remains elusive. The human eye can trace them, but the meaning often escapes understanding, suggesting a cognitive and cultural sophistication that resonates across time. Archaeological excavations at Monte Alegre indicate that the site has been occupied intermittently for at least 11,000 years, making it one of the oldest known human habitations in the Amazon basin. Carbon dating of charcoal, bone, and pigment remnants reveals layers of occupation spanning millennia, reflecting the adaptability and continuity of human presence in this challenging environment. Tools, grinding stones, and other artifacts suggest daily life, while the sheer scale and complexity of the rock art point to ceremonial, symbolic, or cognitive activity far beyond mere survival. How did these early communities conceptualize their environment and express it so deliberately on rock faces, often in spaces that required climbing, stretching, and careful placement? The paintings themselves are striking not only for their age, but for their composition and execution. Unlike some other prehistoric art that tends toward repetition or simple depiction, the Monte Alegre images are varied, dynamic, and in many cases integrated with the natural contours of the rock. Animals appear to move with the curves of the surface. Geometric patterns occupy alcoves and overhangs in ways that suggest spatial awareness and intentionality. Could the placement of these images within the three-dimensional space of the shelters reflect ritual significance, cosmological alignment, or mnemonic function, encoding knowledge of seasons, animal behavior, or landscape features? The precision and imagination evident in these works invite reflection on the cognitive and cultural capacities of early Amazonian peoples, capacities that rival or even exceed contemporary understandings of prehistoric cognition elsewhere. Mainstream interpretations generally frame Monte Alegre as a ritual and residential complex. The shelters likely provided protection and resources, while the art served symbolic, communicative, or ceremonial purposes. Some researchers argue that certain motifs correspond to shamanic practices or spiritual cosmologies, while others highlight evidence of feasting and communal activity near the painted walls. The combination of practical habitation and symbolic expression suggests that the site functioned as both a living space and a cultural hub, integrating survival, memory, and identity. Yet this interpretation only partially addresses the enigma. Why were some images placed in difficult-to-reach areas, or high on ceilings where viewing would require physical effort and careful observation? And what knowledge, social structure, or spiritual belief system guided these choices? Speculative interpretations extend these questions further. Some researchers propose that the geometric patterns and concentric circles could encode astronomical knowledge, marking the movements of the sun, moon, or stars across the landscape and the seasons. Others suggest that the shelters were intentionally chosen for their acoustics and spatial resonance, where the act of painting, chanting, or performing ritual could be amplified and intensified. Could the combination of visual, spatial, and auditory elements indicate a sophisticated understanding of human perception, communication, and cosmology? Or might the art represent a complex symbolic language now lost to time, designed to encode information about migration routes, animal patterns, or sacred landscapes? Fringe theories, while speculative, underscore the site's enduring power to provoke awe. Some enthusiasts suggest that Monte Alegre's art preserves knowledge of advanced observational skills, techniques of pigment preparation, or ritual technologies that were deliberately concealed in symbolic form. Others posit that the shelters functioned as portals between human and spiritual realms, the paintings acting as guides, invitations, or markers for journeys of consciousness. While these ideas cannot be tested conclusively, they highlight the sense of intentionality and sophistication embedded in the site, a human effort to interact with the world in ways that are both practical and metaphysical. The surrounding landscape amplifies the mystery. Monte Alegre is set atop sandstone cliffs that overlook seasonal floodplains, river networks, and forested expanses. These vistas would have been vital for hunting, fishing, and gathering, while also providing a vantage point imbued with symbolic and strategic significance. Could the location itself have been part of the cultural logic encoded in the rock art, integrating spatial awareness, environmental knowledge, and ritual practice? And if so, what principles guided this integration? And how might these early peoples have navigated and interpreted a world simultaneously physical, symbolic, and sacred? The materials themselves speak to the ingenuity of the inhabitants. Pigments derived from ochre, charcoal, and mineral compounds were mixed, applied, and preserved with surprising durability. The act of creating these images required not only artistic vision, but also technical skill in preparation and application. Tools for grinding and applying pigments have been found, but the execution of the images, particularly those in difficult-to-reach areas, suggests careful planning, scaffolding, or communal coordination. What motivated such investment of effort, particularly for abstract or symbolic imagery whose meaning remains opaque? Even the passage of time has not diminished the impact of Monte Alegre. The paintings retain a remarkable vibrancy, the cliffs a sense of permanence, and the layout of the shelters a feeling of intentional design. Walking among them today, one can sense the physicality of creation, the hands that ground pigment, the arms that painted high ceilings, the minds that envisioned animals, patterns, and symbols that would endure for millennia. There is an intimacy here, yet also a monumental quality, a dialogue between human cognition, landscape, and time that cannot be fully replicated with modern tools or imagination. Despite decades of study, Monte Alegre continues to defy comprehensive explanation. How did these early inhabitants combine survival, ritual, and symbolic expression so seamlessly? What knowledge of landscape, seasons, animals, and the cosmos is embedded in the geometric and representational images? And most compellingly, what cultural memory, spiritual insight, or cognitive framework allowed for the creation of art that resonates so profoundly across 11,000 years? As twilight settles over the cliffs of Monte Alegre, the floodplain stretching into shadow, the rock shelters rise silently, their painted surfaces catching the fading light. They speak of human ingenuity, observation, and imagination, of knowledge encoded in pigment, stone, and space. They are sites impossible to replicate, not merely for their age or execution, but for the convergence of perception, intent, and context that they represent. And in the quiet of these ancient shelters, one question remains: what truths, patterns, or knowledge, hidden in the curves, spirals, and depictions of animals, remain waiting to be discovered, or perhaps only contemplated, by those willing to approach Monte Alegre with patience, reverence, and wonder? As the painted cliffs of Monte Alegre recede into memory, their spirals, concentric circles, and depictions of long-extinct fauna lingering like whispers across time, our journey of human mystery shifts once again, this time across oceans and continents, to the arid plains and towering cliffs of West Africa. Here, in the Dogon country of Maui, the Bandiagara escarpment rises dramatically from the surrounding savanna, a sheer sandstone cliff stretching over 150 kilometers, dotted with structures that defy easy explanation. These are not mere dwellings carved into stone. They are a network of villages, granaries, and ceremonial sites clinging to vertical rock faces, blending natural geology with human ingenuity in ways that continue to inspire awe and speculation. From a distance, the escarpment appears as a vast, rusty brown wall slicing across the landscape, its jagged edges softened only by seasonal greenery and the golden glow of the setting sun. As one approaches, the eye is drawn to clusters of small structures, some rectangular, some cylindrical, carefully stacked atop one another or nestled into crevices. Many are elevated dozens of meters above the ground, accessible only by narrow paths, carved steps, or ladders. Granaries, storage houses, and dwellings appear to hang precariously, yet they have withstood centuries of weather, erosion, and human use. The sheer audacity of their placement, combined with the technical skill required to build on such a vertical canvas, immediately commands attention. Archaeological evidence suggests that the Bandiagara escarpment has been inhabited for over 1,000 years, primarily by the Dogon people, who are known for their elaborate cosmology, complex social organization, and remarkable architectural traditions. The cliff structures are thought to have been created as defensive refuges, places of ritual significance, and communal living spaces. Granaries, often cylindrical with thatched roofs, were ingeniously designed to protect grain from pests, humidity, and theft, demonstrating a sophisticated understanding of preservation and local materials. Dwellings, sometimes stacked in multi-story formations, reveal ingenuity in resource allocation, stability, and integration with the natural contours of the rock. Yet, beyond these practical explanations lies an enduring mystery. How did the builders manage the logistics of transporting materials, raising walls, and constructing multi-level dwellings on vertical cliffs, often without the aid of modern tools or scaffolding? Some stones are quarried and shaped with remarkable precision, others assembled to create walls and terraces that have resisted gravity and centuries of erosion. The technical skill is undeniable, yet the methods remain largely speculative. Did the builders employ ropes, pulleys, and scaffolds? Or were their techniques now lost to history? And why was so much effort expended on locations that are difficult to access, even by modern standards? The placement of these structures also hints at cosmological and cultural significance. Villages are not scattered randomly. Their positions along the escarpment appear to relate to defensive advantages, social hierarchies, and perhaps symbolic orientations. Certain shrines, ceremonial platforms, and cliffside sanctuaries suggest that the Dogon, and perhaps earlier peoples, imbued these sites with spiritual meaning. Mainstream anthropological research emphasizes the role of religion, cosmology, and ancestral veneration in determining the organization of settlements and sacred spaces. But what layers of knowledge guided these choices, particularly those relating to alignment, proximity to water sources, or visibility across the savanna? One of the most intriguing elements of the Bandiagara escarpment is the persistence of oral traditions, myths, and symbolic knowledge associated with the cliffs. The Dogon people are renowned for their complex cosmology, which includes stories of celestial bodies, ancestral spirits, and cycles of life that intertwine with their physical environment. Could the architecture itself encode aspects of this knowledge, from spatial orientation to structural symbolism? Some suggest that granaries, dwellings, and ceremonial spaces were arranged to reflect cosmological principles, social hierarchies, or ritualized movement through space. If so, these are blueprints of knowledge expressed in stone, human labor, and landscape, a tangible embodiment of worldview. Speculative theories extend the intrigue even further. Some researchers have noted that the cliff structures, when viewed collectively, create a visual rhythm along the escarpment that could convey information, serve as signaling markers, or even reflect astronomical cycles. Others propose that the elevation of certain shrines and platforms may have facilitated ritual observation of the sun, moon, and stars, integrating practical architecture with spiritual and temporal awareness. And then there are questions of social engineering. How were labor and resources organized to create such complex constructions, and what systems of knowledge or oral instruction ensured that these techniques persisted across generations without written plans? The engineering itself is remarkable. In addition to sheer structural audacity, the buildings exhibit a nuanced understanding of material properties. Sandstone blocks are combined with mud mortar and thatch in ways that provide insulation, stability, and durability. Granaries are elevated to protect contents from humidity and pests, while dwellings incorporate terraces, buttresses, and weight distribution techniques that prevent collapse. How did these builders develop such advanced methods without the aid of formal engineering education, blueprints, or mechanized tools? The answer may lie in cumulative knowledge, trial and error, and deep observation of the natural environment, but the precision and scale remain astonishing. Fringe interpretations, while controversial, add another layer to the mystery. Some scholars and enthusiasts have suggested that the Bandiagara escarpment may encode astronomical or mathematical knowledge, perhaps related to solar cycles, lunar phases, or other celestial phenomena. Others speculate that the vertical placement of dwellings and granaries may have symbolic significance beyond the practical, perhaps representing a hierarchy of sacred space or a connection between human and spiritual realms. While these ideas cannot be proven, they underscore the sense that the escarpment was conceived with multiple layers of meaning, intertwining practicality, social organization, and metaphysical contemplation. The surrounding landscape amplifies the wonder. From the escarpment's heights, the vast plains, river valleys, and distant mountains stretch into the horizon. Visibility across these distances may have influenced the placement of villages, granaries, and ritual platforms, integrating defense, communication, and observation. The cliffs themselves, carved over millennia by erosion and geological forces, became not just a foundation but a collaborator in the architectural vision, shaping dwellings, terraces, and ceremonial sites in concert with natural forms. How did builders perceive and respond to this landscape, and how much of their construction reflects observation, intuition, and experiential knowledge of rock, gravity, and spatial dynamics? Walking among the cliffside dwellings today, one is struck by both their functionality and their monumentality. The buildings, though modest in scale, are harmonized with the escarpment in ways that defy modern replication. The narrow paths, elevated platforms, and multi-level dwellings convey a sense of choreography, of movement, observation, and communal interaction shaped by geography and human intention. It is an architecture simultaneously lived in and observed, practical and symbolic, grounded in survival yet expressive of cultural vision. Despite centuries of study, the Bandiagra escarpment continues to resist full understanding. How were these cliff dwellings constructed and maintained with such precision and longevity? What knowledge guided the orientation, placement, and design of granaries, homes, and ceremonial platforms? And, most intriguingly, what blend of technical skill, environmental observation, and spiritual or social vision allowed these communities to transform a sheer rock face into a functional, symbolic, and enduring living landscape? As dusk settles across the escarpment, casting long shadows down the cliffs and illuminating the terraces and granaries in amber light, the structures rise quietly, monumental yet intimate, daring yet harmonious with the land. They speak of human ingenuity, social organization, and a profound engagement with the natural and symbolic world. The Bandiagra escarpment is impossible to replicate, not merely because of its geography or materials, but because of the fusion of perception, intention, and knowledge embedded in every stone, path, and platform. And in the silence of these cliffside villages, one question lingers. What secrets, practices, or knowledge, hidden in stone, height, and landscape, remain waiting to be discovered, or simply marveled at, by those willing to approach the Bandiagara escarpment with patience, observation, and wonder? And, as the sun dips behind the rugged cliffs of the Bandiagara escarpment, casting elongated shadows over the hanging villages and granaries, the mind is left lingering on the audacity of human ingenuity, the seamless integration of survival, ritual, and architecture into a vertical landscape that defies replication. From these heights, our exploration now shifts across the Mediterranean, where the rolling plains and limestone ridges of Andalusia, Spain, cradle one of Europe's most enigmatic megalithic monuments, the Dolmen of Menga. Here, a single chamber tomb, colossal in scale, rises from the earth, its stones silently asserting the presence of human intention, mastery, and mystery over 5 millennia ago. At first glance, the Dolmen of Menga is imposing in both size and simplicity. From the ground, it resembles a massive rectangular mound capped with an enormous horizontal stone slab. Yet a closer view reveals its astonishing scale and precision. The chamber is formed by 13 enormous vertical megaliths, some weighing over 180 tons, arranged to support a capstone that stretches nearly 27 meters in length. The entrance faces north-northeast, not towards the rising sun as might be expected in traditional megalithic alignments, but towards the distant peak of the Peña de los Enamorados, a prominent limestone mountain whose profile resembles a reclining human figure. This deliberate orientation has sparked intrigue and debate among archaeologists and astronomers alike, raising questions about the knowledge, purpose, and worldview of the builders. Dating back to approximately 3,500 to 3000 BCE, the Dolmen of Menga is part of a larger complex of megalithic structures in Antequera, including the Dolmen of Vieira and Tholos de El Romeral. Unlike these neighboring sites, Menga is exceptional in scale, engineering, and alignment, suggesting a site of particular significance. Archaeological studies indicate that it functioned as a collective burial site, possibly for a powerful community or elite class, with human remains and funerary artifacts discovered within its chamber. Yet the sheer effort required to transport, raise, and position the massive stones hints at motivations beyond simple interment. How did Neolithic societies manage to move blocks of this magnitude over uneven terrain, align them with distant landmarks, and construct a stable chamber that has endured for thousands of years? The engineering challenges alone are staggering. Each stone had to be quarried from nearby sites, shaped to fit within the chamber, and lifted into position without the benefit of metal tools or mechanized lifting devices. The capstone alone, estimated to weigh upwards of 180 tons, rests with remarkable stability atop the vertical megaliths. The builders likely relied on ingenuity, communal labor, and sophisticated understanding of leverage and balance, yet the precise methods remain speculative. Did they use earthen ramps, wooden sledges, ropes, or perhaps techniques now lost to time? And what knowledge guided the careful selection and placement of stones, ensuring the chamber's longevity in both form and function? The orientation of the dolmen introduces further intrigue. Unlike other European megaliths that often align with solstices or cardinal directions, Menga's entrance points directly toward Peña de los Enamorados, a mountain that dominates the surrounding landscape and holds symbolic significance in local myth and legend. Was this alignment purely visual, creating a dramatic sightline across the plains, or did it encode astronomical or spiritual knowledge? Some researchers suggest that the dolmen may have functioned as a ceremonial observatory of sorts, integrating landscape, celestial observation, and ritual practice into a single monumental structure. Could the Neolithic builders have possessed an understanding of sightlines, angles, and terrain that allowed them to harmonize human construction with natural topography in a way that remains unparalleled today? Inside, the chamber exudes a quiet majesty. The enormous vertical stones, arranged with geometric precision, create a space that is both protective and awe-inspiring. The sheer scale of the megaliths amplifies sound, shadows, and light, suggesting that the interior may have been deliberately designed to enhance ritual experience. Some scholars speculate that the chamber's acoustics could have played a role in ceremonies or rites of passage, where chanting or music resonated across the stones, binding participants to the space and the earth itself. Could these Neolithic builders have considered not only the visual but the auditory and tactile experience of the dolmen? And if so, what cultural or spiritual insights guided these choices? The surrounding landscape further deepens the mystery. Peña de los Enamorados rises sharply from the plains, its distinct profile resembling a reclining human form, visible from the dolmen's entrance across kilometers of open terrain. The mountain is not merely a backdrop. It becomes part of the monument's conceptual framework, integrating natural and human-made features into a coherent whole. This interplay of stone, earth, and sky suggests a worldview where landscape and monument are inseparable, where natural features are encoded with meaning, and where the act of construction becomes a dialogue with the surrounding environment. Could the builders have perceived the dolmen and the mountain as complementary elements in a ritual or symbolic narrative, linking the terrestrial and the celestial, the human and the natural? Speculative interpretations extend the enigma even further. Some researchers have suggested that Menga's alignment and monumental scale indicate knowledge of geometry, surveying, or spatial cognition that exceeds conventional assumptions about Neolithic Europe. Others propose that the dolmen's positioning relative to Peña de los Enamorados encodes cosmological or mythological principles, perhaps acting as a calendar, a ceremonial marker, or a symbolic gateway between worlds. While these interpretations cannot be definitively proven, they underscore the sense that Menga was conceived with multiple layers of meaning, practical, symbolic, and ritual, all interwoven into a single enduring monument. The labor and social organization required to construct the Dolmen of Menga also hint at an advanced society capable of coordination, long-term planning, and shared vision. Moving, shaping, and erecting stones of such magnitude would have required not only ingenuity and strength, but also leadership, cooperation, and specialized knowledge. Was this monumental effort motivated by ritual, political power, ancestral veneration, or a combination of all three? And how was this knowledge transmitted across generations without written records, ensuring that construction was executed with precision and intent? Walking around the dolmen today, the viewer is struck by both its physicality and its immaterial resonance. The stones, weathered yet enduring, convey a silent power that is both imposing and intimate. Shadows shift across their surfaces, sunlight illuminates the capstone at certain times of day, and the distant profile of Peña de los Enamorados dominates the horizon in a reminder of the connection between human construction and landscape. It is a place where time seems suspended, where labor, vision, and environment converge, and where the mysteries of Neolithic Europe are palpable. Despite extensive study, the Dolmen of Menga continues to resist full explanation. How were stones of such size moved and placed with such precision? What guided the orientation toward Peña de los Enamorados, and why does this alignment persist as a central feature of the monument's design? What combination of ritual, cosmology, and technical knowledge allowed these builders to create a space that is functional, symbolic, and enduring across more than 5 millennia? As dusk settles over the Andalusian plains, casting a golden glow across the dolmen's capstone and illuminating the distant silhouette of Peña de los Enamorados, the monument rises quietly, monumental yet intimately tied to its environment. It speaks of human ingenuity, spiritual vision, and a dialogue with landscape that is impossible to replicate today. The Dolmen of Menga, in all its weight, scale, and orientation, is not merely a tomb. It is a statement of connection between humans, stone, and the cosmos, a testament to what is both achievable and unknowable in human endeavor. And in the quiet of that ancient chamber, one question lingers. What truths, symbolic codes, or ancestral knowledge, etched in stone and aligned with the world beyond, remain waiting to be discovered, or perhaps only contemplated, by those willing to approach the Dolmen of Menga with patience, reverence, and wonder? As the stones of the Dolmen of Menga fade behind us, their immense weight and deliberate alignment lingering in the imagination, our exploration returns to the rugged terrain of North America, where the desert cliffs and mesas of the American Southwest conceal one of the most remarkable and enigmatic human achievements of the continent: the Anasazi cliff dwellings. These structures, perched high above canyon floors in New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, and Colorado, reveal a culture capable of architectural ingenuity, social organization, and adaptation to a harsh environment. Yet they also present mysteries that continue to challenge archaeologists and historians. The first glimpse of an Anasazi dwelling is arresting. From a distance, clusters of stone rooms seem to hang impossibly from the cliffs, tucked into natural alcoves and overhangs as though carved by the wind itself. Adobe mortar, sandstone blocks, and timber beams form multi-story buildings, granaries, kivas, and ceremonial spaces, their construction harmonizing with the natural contours of the rock. Some settlements, like those at Mesa Verde or Canyon de Celli, stretch for hundreds of meters along the cliff face, comprising dozens or even hundreds of rooms. The sheer audacity of their placement is breathtaking. How did the Anasazi lift stones, shape beams, and construct roofs hundreds of feet above canyon floors, often with precarious footing, limited tools, and no modern machinery. Dating from roughly 1200 to 1300 CE, the cliff dwellings were part of a wider network of ancestral Puebloan communities. Archaeological evidence indicates that these structures functioned as residential, storage, and ceremonial spaces. Kivas, circular subterranean chambers, appear throughout the settlements, suggesting spiritual and social activities intertwined with daily life. Yet while the practical purpose of these dwellings is clear, the motivations for their dramatic location remain partially speculative. Were they built primarily for defense against raiding parties, or for environmental advantages such as temperature moderation and protection from the elements? Or did they hold symbolic significance, asserting presence and identity in the vast canyon landscape? The engineering of the cliff dwellings is extraordinary. Builders had to transport sandstone blocks from ledges or riverbeds, shape them with stone tools, and assemble them with adobe mortar in spaces that often provided only inches of working room. Timber beams, sometimes dozens of feet long, had to be carried from distant forests and integrated into walls and roofs with remarkable precision. Multi-story structures required an understanding of weight distribution, leverage, and stability, all achieved without written blueprints or formal engineering education. Could the Anasazi have employed techniques now lost to time, scaffolding, pulleys, or innovative methods of lifting? And how much of their success relied on communal coordination, oral instruction, and long-standing tradition? The location of these dwellings also evokes questions about observation, landscape, and orientation. Many settlements are positioned to take advantage of sunlight, prevailing winds, and visibility across the canyon floors. Others are aligned with celestial phenomena, with certain windows, kiva features, or structural orientations corresponding to solstices, lunar cycles, or prominent stars. Was this knowledge functional, ritualistic, or both? Could the architecture itself have encoded cosmological understanding, linking daily life to celestial order and marking time through observation? And how did such knowledge influence the placement of entire communities within an unforgiving environment? Speculative interpretations expand the intrigue. Some researchers suggest that the cliff dwellings were designed not just for practical purposes, but as expressions of social cohesion, hierarchy, and spiritual worldview. The difficulty of access, the prominence of certain kivas, and the careful integration of rooms into alcoves and ledges may have reinforced communal identity, ritual significance, or even acted as markers of sacred space. Could the placement of dwellings and ceremonial chambers reflect a deliberate mapping of social, spiritual, and cosmic relationships, linking humans to cliffs, canyons, and sky? The dwellings themselves often contain artifacts that deepen the mystery. Pottery, textiles, tools, and ceremonial objects suggest a high level of craftsmanship and resourcefulness. Some petroglyphs and pictographs in nearby caves and cliff faces depict animals, humans, and abstract symbols, their meanings still debated. Were these symbolic notations of spiritual journeys, records of historical events, or mnemonic devices for knowledge about landscape, migration, or astronomy? And why are certain artistic or ceremonial elements found only in particular alcoves, inaccessible to casual observation, hinting at intentional secrecy or restricted knowledge? Fringe theories, while speculative, underscore the enduring fascination with these sites. Some propose that cliff dwellings reflect lost engineering or architectural methods capable of feats now considered impossible. Others suggest that the Anasazi may have integrated knowledge of astronomy, geomancy, or environmental science into the construction, creating dwellings that aligned with energy flows, seasonal changes, or celestial events. While these ideas cannot be verified conclusively, they emphasize the multi-layered sophistication of these communities and the enduring sense of wonder they inspire. Even today, standing at the base of a cliff dwelling, Looking upward at its precarious terraces and interconnected rooms, one cannot help but marvel at the ingenuity, courage, and vision of its builders. The interplay of rock, timber, and human ingenuity creates spaces that are both functional and monumental, intimate yet daring. The dwellings are impossible to replicate fully, not simply due to the physical challenge of construction, but because of the fusion of environmental understanding, social organization, spiritual insight, and practical skill they embody. Despite centuries of research, many questions remain. How did the Anasazi manage the labor, logistics, and knowledge required for these complex cliffside settlements? What principles guided their placement, orientation, and structural design? And perhaps most compellingly, what blend of observation, ritual, and cognition allowed them to create dwellings that harmonize so seamlessly with a challenging and dramatic landscape? As sunlight filters across the canyon walls, illuminating ledges and rooms carved into the stone, the Anasazi dwellings stand quietly, monumental yet intimate, a testament to human adaptation, vision, and creativity. They are places that invite contemplation, where every stone, beam, and alcove tells a story of survival, community, and ingenuity. And in the shadow of these ancient cliffs, one question lingers. What knowledge, wisdom, or cultural insight, hidden in the placement of rooms, the alignment of windows, or the carvings on rock, remains waiting to be discovered, or perhaps simply felt, by those who approach the Anasazi cliff dwellings with patience, reverence, and wonder?